coming out tonight. We have a lot. So we're going to try and keep things moving as best we can. I did want to approve the Board of Supervisors meetings. I think that's the first thing we have on the agenda.
Yep. There's an executive session.
But we didn't have an executive session.
Yeah, it's right before it.
I think we did. I think we had one.
No, our last meeting
We just had,
was very recent, but that we announced it at the last meeting.
we just had one last hour. To discuss real estate.
Okay, right. Okay. All right. So, okay, I will amend that. And we did just have an executive session while you're all waiting outside to discuss real estate. And other than that, there were no others that are listed. We did want to approve the Board of Supervisors meetings for July 15th and the workshop meetings of August 5th. Do I have a motion?
The move.
I'll second.
All approved?
Yes. Hi.
Aye. Approved. And I did make mention, Kathy, that I had that one change. I think we were just missing that Jim was in attendance.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know if that.
What did you do?
The last meeting we had, it, in the attendance, it was missing Jim.
Oh. Correct.
Yes.
I believe you had sent some over and I'm not sure what they were. Did you want to mention
Well,
that?
no, I corrected Bree's name,
Okay. Nothing substantive.
but I sent it to Kathy.
Yeah, I thought that.
Okay. Sergeant Russell, would you like to do the report?
Sure.
Thank you. We've moved things around a little here.
This is the July 2024 monthly report for West Vincent Township Police Department. For training, we had a law enforcement conference, summary totals, number of calls for service 146, number of crimes investigated 3, number of arrests 2, they were both driving under the influence, number of traffic stops 38, number of accidents investigated 8.
Thank you very much. Jim, would you like to do the treasurer's report?
In terms of the treasurer's report, in terms of funds, as of the end of July, the general fund had $1,582,939.82. Capital project reserve fund had $2,503,520.56. Capital equipment fund had $262,099.77. Capital road fund had $2,194,534.26. The Citadel MasterCard Visa Fund had $12,756.11. In terms of restricted funds, the RPA Fund had $130,320.33. Open Space Fund had $4,485,344.71. Liquid fuel funds, $388,426.20. The non-township funds, escrow funds of $850,668.84. And a sewer fund of $27,795.10 for a grand total of $12,438,405.71.
Thank you.
Okay, would you also like to give us the expenditure summary, the bills list? Here's the total.
Yeah. Right here, in terms of the bills list, there are general fund expenditures totaling $194,931.49. And capital road project expenditures of $99,895.61. And a grand total of $294,827.10.
And I just wanted to really thank Jim and Kathy for getting all this together with needing to try and figure out how Jackie was doing things in a very short period of time, a week's notice. I appreciate that everything was done. It might be a little different than some people are used to seeing it, but we're going to try and get there so everyone likes the format. Okay. We do need to approve the bills. I'm sorry, you need this, right? Yeah, we need I'll do the motion since it's not written out. We need a motion to approve the bills list in the total of $294,827.10.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Thank you.
I think we could have asked if anyone from the board had questions.
We certainly can. I'm sorry.
Sadly, they're not here.
Did anyone have any questions?
Okay.
And Jim, we're gonna call on you again for the manager's report.
There's really not much that I'll report on. The planning commission canceled its regularly scheduled meeting for lack of business. I do also want to thank Kathy, payroll went off, thank God without a hitch. And in terms of the financial reports, we will attempt to get them looking like more what you saw in the past. But it's a QuickBooks issue, and it's our issue, and we will address it as soon as we can. There's also an EMS meeting. Kathy Kazone reached out to us at both 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Chester County Public Safety Meeting Training Campus on EMS and crisis. And people have been invited to attend. And that's what day is, I think that's tomorrow.
Yes,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 2 and 6.
Thank you very much. Can we get an approval for resolution number 12, 2024, Pot House Timberton lot line change?
So.
All in favor?
Wait.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, we need to ask.
I
ask
don't,
if
I
anyone
don't
has-
think, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
think
sorry.
we had a second.
You're right.
So
You need a second.
I will second it and I will not vote for it.
Right. Can we see if anyone has any questions or comments?
There is a representative here, an applicant, to answer any questions.
Yes, I'm here to answer any questions if you folks have questions.
I know Sarah has questions, but does anyone in the audience first? Sarah, do you want to bring up your concerns with this?
I thought that Dave might think we needed to table it. We want to try to get this straightened out today.
Well, I think there was a little bit of concern of the board with regard to why the area that's being deeded from Sweetwater to Hot House Kimmerton, why is that area needed and necessary? Maybe you can address that.
Sure, that area, and it's a little difficult to see in the plans. First off, my name is Jim Higney. I'm from Commonwealth Engineers. We prepared the lot line exchange plan between Hot House Kimmerton and Sweetwater LLC. These are 3 unusually shaped parcels. They're on the east side of Pottstown Pike. The area in question, the area that we're requesting from Sweetwater LLC, is a sliver of the tract, the triangular tract, which is parcel 25-6-69. And there is just a teeny bit of a sliver of that ground that was outside of that right of way. In order for us to provide the future right of way that we're going to be offering to Westminster Township as a in fee, we actually need to take over that little piece of ground, that triangular piece of ground, to get that right of way to happen. Otherwise, there's a piece of land in there that is not under Pottstown Pike's ownership, and then it becomes a little more complicated to move the process through that development.
And
And that was the whole purpose of this land.
right, and the question is, what if you just moved the connection to Route 100 further north? So you didn't need to acquire that triangular piece of land?
In our opinion, we're going to need this even if we move that intersection slightly north. It's also a matter of, in that separate plan, which is land development plan, adhering to greenway requirements on the northern parcel here, which is 25-6-84, with the reconfigured lots as part of providing you folks with your right of way. And the issue that we anticipate with PennDOT, based on our experience with PennDOT, is that on Pottstown Pike, we're most likely, regardless of whether or not this intersection is 50 feet or 75 feet or 100 feet north, there's a good chance we're going to still require that piece of ground for additional right of way for possible shoulders and road widening. We just don't know what PennDOT's going to do. So that's why we chose the tack that we chose.
Jim, you had some previous engagements about this parcel with PennDOT.
No,
Okay, you said something about that parcel.
yeah, there was many years ago a federal earmark. That I believe was initiated by Representative Gerlach,
But it's long
but
gone.
it's long gone.
Okay,
And Sweetwater is amenable to it.
Yes, yeah, we actually have a land exchange agreement in place, which is how we filed the subdivision plan. And this is part of the moving parts that we need to get in place for the land development plan, which is in process. And of course, you're going to be seeing a lot of that as we file for conditional use here in the future.
I think the reason that we were going round and round about this, I think the reason that we were considering tabling is because there was a question about where Lexington came in and making sure that that was accurate, but that's not going to happen till the next phase anyway. Do we feel like we can
where's,
continue with this, or what do you think, Dave?
where's today's resolution?
I guess if I can, Sarah, for a second.
Okay,
So in your zoning hearing board exhibit,
Correct.
you showed a potential location for what will be Lexington Boulevard.
Exactly. And it seems to be the best fit to match your comprehensive plan.
But that's not been engineered as yet, and that location is subject to change? Can it
That
be changed?
location has been engineered
Okay.
and has been submitted as a preliminary plan phase, and that brought us over to this phase of things, because we went through the zoning hearing and requested that relief. And as I said, there's a lot of moving parts to this project that's a little bit complicated. We had to get through the zoning hearing first in order to get to a point where we could request the land exchange with Sweetwater, and then we had to get through that land agreement with Sweetwater to be able to submit this minor land exchange. It's a subdivision, so it's basically a swapping of ground. And now we're back in front of you with that land development plan, and we'll continue on our engineered plan. But we do have that right of way shown and the street access in that point.
so my question was, Mr. Sharma, Dr. Sharma already had 2 parcels. And Sweetwater has a whole slew of parcels. Why did we need to combine Sweetwater and Sharma's parcels? Why couldn't we make it work on one owner?
We are not combining them, we're exchanging land with parcels with Sweetwater. So Sweetwater, that's why this is a separate plan. Sweetwater has no desire to be involved with the land development to the north. This is strictly, we're willing to give you, I think it's 3,800 square feet of ground in exchange for what we're going to give Sweetwater, and then they're out of it. They're not tied into this at all. We prefer to keep it that way.
Except that the resolution talks about finishing the Lexington extension out to 401 at the same time development is happening. And so it's like,
We are
Why-
constructing a roadway for access for both of these parcels as part of the land development plan. And we are not going to construct all of Lexington Boulevard out to Route
we
401.
we never
Because we
have,
have no ownership over that ground.
we have,
I just wanted to
you and
clear
I were
what
in
we are
a meeting
doing.
more than a year ago about how to align that.
Sure.
And we had no suggestion that you would take it out to 401.
Okay.
That's Mr. McCabe's property, whatever he does. But we had talked about getting the alignment up to the back of Sharman's northernmost parcel. So
Right,
Is that what you're doing?
yes, we're providing that right of way, and you can see it in the zoning hearing exhibit, that right of way. And we're constructing the road so we can remove access from the northern and southern parcels, the parcels that Dr. Sharma owns as, part of the land development for the self-storage unit located on the southern parcel,
Okay,
which is 25-6.
so the encroachment of Sweetwater's materials onto Mr. Sharma's southernmost parcel, that has nothing to do with the swap or
Correct.
Sweetwater is now storing materials on Sharma's property where he wants to put in the storage facility. Is that not a part of this, or are we acknowledging that? Is that part
That's,
of what's gonna happen is we're gonna ask that Sweetwater clean that up for Mr. Sharma?
well, we're working on that, and Sweetwater and Dr. Sharma are aware of that area. And as part of the land development plan, we're reshaping that ground. Sweetwater is going to be involved with that, because we're also dealing with retaining wall design in that area. And provided we get through the land exchange and get the land exchange reported, then we're going to move on to that next phase. But yeah, we will be working with Sweetwater to resolve whatever issues are up there as part of our land development application. But it had nothing to do with land exchange. We really needed to get the right of way area. that
But so
was
we're back
different.
to having to work with Sweetwater for something when their parcel shouldn't be involved at all. So that's part of what keeps.
Well, it
befuddling
won't be
me.
if we approve this.
No. I don't.
We are working with them as a landowner to landowner to deal with whatever encroachment is out there. I know there's a little bit of fill in that area. We're also reshaping our parcel, and we're going to need a retaining wall design on that southern, boundary line as it affects Sweetwater. Sweetwater, again, is aware of that, and we've had multiple conversations with them about that. And it's a neighbor, and we're working with the neighbor on that, but they are not, again, tied into Pottstown Pike LP, who I'm representing
Okay,
as the applicant.
I don't
And
think
that
it's-
encroachment by Sweetwater has nothing to do with this exchange of land for purposes of the Route 100 connection.
Right, it's strictly this small area of right of way and the configuration of the land development parcels where this came into play.
only we're just talking about the area of disturbance conflict. And he says yes, but then he's back to the small parcel exchange instead of.
I think what he's saying is there's two issues. There's
Right.
parcel exchange
That's correct.
that they need for the Route 100 access, and then separately, there may be some issues between Sweetwater and Swarma relative to Sweetwater's encroachment that they're working on independently of that land exchange. It's not in the same place, right?
Correct.
The
Thank
land
you
exchange
for-
is not in the same place.
That's correct.
It's they're dealing with it in two separate issues.
Right.
I don't see any reason to hold this up on them other than, Sarah, you were concerned about something to Lexington, but that's going to
We'll deal with that.
happen in the next
Next
phase,
development.
correct?
We will have ample time to get into. the
Okay.
weeds on that, I promise you.
So if we
You'll be
grant
set for a
you
while.
this lot line
Right.
change, then we can just move on and deal with that. It's not gonna affect this, so I think we should go ahead and vote on it.
I think you had a motion in a second.
We did. Do we have anyone else has any questions on this since we just confused everyone probably? Eric?
Come on.
Sure. Right in the center here. Sorry, we moved everything around.
Barry Deliberate, 1012 Pottstown Pike, neighbor to the property. So if you didn't grant it, eventually this road's going to get built. Who's responsible for building the road? Is that going to be the township or the state for this section?
Well, you're talking about Lexington Boulevard.
Lexington Boulevard, the section that goes from Route 100 down to 401.
Well, no one's responsible for it now unless someone proposes to do it.
Yeah, right.
Who proposes to do it would be paying for it. So that
Okay,
township road, it could be state road. right.
okay. So it could be township or state, right?
Or any
When,
combination.
when that's done, they'll end up condemning the land anyway, right? To take the land. Well, condemning it or buying it out with admission of the of the property owner, right? They're gonna end up taking that ground anyway. That little triangle, they're gonna end up taking that to do their work. For whatever reason, they're gonna clean that up anyway. So it's gonna end up going either way.
We understand.
So,
Except
There's
that
no
I
reason to
don't know
hold it
what
up.
you mean by they, who's they are gonna.
well, the township or they would either be the township or PennDOT. If it goes to get done, if you don't approve these guys to make it, the taxpayer is gonna pay for it somehow, and they're gonna end up taking that triangle anyway. So I don't know what difference it would make. So you might as well just give it to them, and be done with it. Just let them do their swap.
It's
Be
not-
cheaper on the taxpayer.
it's not first to give.
I'm not saying to give the permission to, not give. You know what I'm talking about, Sarah. Thank you.
I'm learning from her.
Is there anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for your time.
Is that an abstain?
I don't think I'm allowed to abstain,
No, is that a yes or no?
would be a no.
Okay. Ayes have it. And next on the agenda would be approval of 2 stormwater waivers, Honeybrook Properties, 670 Birchland Road. Want to make a,
I think we'd like to have Norm come and tell us why he thinks this is a good idea.
Is there anyone here for the applicant? Okay. And
I'm not fed up. I was here for.
oh, okay.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
I just was so happy to see you.
well,
Thank
Did you want
the,
to have something to say on this, Scott?
There are just 2 waivers
Do you want
that,
to come on
Oh,
up?
sorry.
Sorry, thank you.
they are just 2 waivers that were previously approved, and we had to go through a re-subdivision, or not a re-subdivision, a resubmission. And LTL came out and inspected everything. And we have a clean letter. Miss Franny received that earlier today.
so the 2 waiver requests, and Norman, you might be able to help us if I read them. Relief to allow township engineer review of the erosion control for the site due to the extreme limited nature of earth disturbance. So would that be as opposed to some other engineering firm?
That's likely, versus submission to the county conservation.
Okay,
And generally, I don't have issues with that.
So we'll still get inspected.
I generally, when we look at them, we're going to the site, we have some type of an issue, we're not the enforcement portion of it, conservation district would be, but we would certainly, and have called the conservation district if there have been issues past with, a particular storm.
and the second one is relief to utilize permeability based on USDA soils report.
And
What
that
is that?
generally has to do with permeability, which is how a particular soil type and soil classification will receive infiltration. And generally speaking, for a minor stormwater permit versus doing a double ring infiltrometer or something that is more for a regional basin, we don't have a problem deferring to soil types and soil classification. So I don't see either one of those being, now keep credit and thank you, Dave. I don't see it. So,
Is this sort of catch up on something that we might have been monitoring earlier?
Again, I guess. It's Mr. Isbell?
Yes, sir.
Okay, had indicated that they were previously approved. This is a resubmission.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
And
I'm
what
not-
triggered the resubmission?
I'm sorry.
What triggered the resubmission?
We used, when we initially did our driveway, it had to be permeable pavers, and some of the areas were not passed as permeable pavers. So what we were asked to do by our engineer, and I believe reviewed by LTL, was to put in a stormwater garden in the back of the property, and we have.
Again, we not.
And I believe somebody from your office inspected when they were out there.
Yeah, and I did have that conversation. I would support that approach.
Okay, good.
I don't think. that that's real, I don't think that's-
And I believe that was signed off by LT.
Okay,
Do we have a motion?
thank
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you. So we're not allowed to tell you, Scott, that we keep an eye on this.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the two stormwater waivers.
I'll second.
Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Okay, now approval of Bowman proposal to prepare for DVRPC grant for the Buttonwood Bridge.
Is there anyone from Bowman here? Okay,
Do you want to explain that at all, Jim?
Yeah, I can explain this. Bowman has previously done a design for the replacement of the Buttonwood Bridge. In the past, we've not been able to go out for grants because this bridge has a span, I believe, of 18 feet. In the past, all the grants that were available required the span be a minimum of 21 feet. A RFP for grant submissions has recently come out, and they've knocked that limitation down to, I believe it's under 10 feet. So this is an opportunity for us to apply for a grant, would cover 80% of the cost of the bridge. This proposal by Bowman, which is, I believe, for $7,700, is to do the additional work which would be required for us to be able to submit for the grant, and that grant is due September 9th. So it's a very short timeframe.
Yeah, and I'll add that we were actually looking at another design possibility for this bridge, but there isn't enough time to get it. We would still consider it. It's I guess it's cheaper. What you might want to tell us a little bit about that, Norm, but there's not enough time to get it designed to put it out for bid. So it's more of a backup plan.
Well, to the level, if the township was lucky enough to get the grant, certainly based on that type of funding, I would strongly
Yeah.
support heading in that direction. If for some reason you wouldn't get the grant, then there was some possibility to look at it as an alternative design that just simply the design in itself, even unfunded, could potentially save the township money. Because of the time constraints, and I spoke with Jim briefly about this, and as far along as the now Bowman design is, I think it's a great idea to at least certainly go after that.
And I believe we would not know about this grant for at least a year, probably. Is that about right?
Yeah, at this point in time, I don't know when they're gonna award, and given who's involved, I'm not sure when.
It generally can be longer than shorter.
Yes.
Often, depending on timelines, I don't know if the grant specifically says when it would be out.
I don't believe it
but
does.
Grants due in September, typically we hear something April, May, and COVID still has some lingering effects. I don't know when they would catch up, if they ever will, but
Right.
I would say a year would be certainly comfortable. I wouldn't see it taking long.
Okay, and this plan that we're talking about, the grant for was upwards of $1 million plus.
Right.
The cost of that, and I think the one that you were proposing as an alternative was
We didn't put
more than half of that.
Didn't put a cost on it yet. I mean, literally, it was very preliminary. I think met with Jackie one time before she had left, and Dave was in on that. And we talked about the possibility of that, and it certainly seemed intriguing based on what my understanding of the bridge design was, but I didn't even get a chance. Jackie was trying to get plans for that to look at, because I didn't even get a chance for that, but I looked at a different idea that I thought might be more cost effective. And again, if you're lucky enough to get an 80% matching fund, I would grant, I would go after that. And regardless of the cost, 80% coverage still save the township, even if what I had in my mind would work. I still think 80% is still more savings. I would recommend.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the audience have a question on this?
Just look at alternative.
Come to a microphone.
From Scaparotto, Button Lane. What's the alternative that you were proposing?
Sure.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay,
I apologize for having my back to most everyone, but really, and again, this was very preliminary, but we started looking at other Buttonwood issues, and I was out there with the roadmaster, and he had started talking about, I believe, what he had thought was a single span bridge, and from a cost standpoint, right now, what you have there is I guess I will call them two box culverts, roughly about the 18-foot span that you had indicated, Jim. And I thought that, especially considering the way the stream configuration was, that I would recommend looking into the possibility of two larger frame culverts, which are open bottom, which is preferable by DEP from a permitting standpoint. And you could go with two frame culverts, which I believe would be much less than and again, these numbers were thrown out. There wasn't a whole lot to support that at the time. Jackie wasn't certain. She was looking into it because really it was kind of something that John Granger was working on. So you can kind of get an idea that it had quite a history to it. So really, we were at the point where we were trying to gather information, gather a preliminary cost, gather what this structure was going to look like. And then I had spoken with Jim, and that time frame being as short as it was, I was like, it's just not an option to be able to even look at what we were talking about. But what I would consider would be two frame culverts, again, staying under 20 feet, because that means if you go over 20 feet, you're under PennDOT's eye. And I try to avoid that at all costs.
And I think the thing now is that we're fortunate that they changed the specifications for that grant, and now we have a window of opportunity, which we didn't have before, and we need to seize upon. So.
Right. And again, it didn't even get a chance to get the set of the plans to look at what they were proposing. But again, I was just simply going by what I was told, which was something larger. And again, I'm not 100% convinced that wouldn't require a PennDOT, review from a rating and an evaluation standpoint down the road. So try to avoid that whenever we can. Going with two structures under 20 feet would be better than going with a single structure over 20.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Is there anyone else had a question on that? I don't think we actually made a motion.
No, we didn't. I make a motion to approve the Bowman proposal for the grant for the Buttonwood Bridge.
Does it have an amount with it?
77.
There's no.
Estimated to be 7,700.
Okay, then I would prefer to have that in the motion. So I will second it with the
Adding the
77.
cost.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. And as everyone's excited about, we are looking to work on our manager search. So that would be our next agenda item. And there's actually two proposals that we have. They're not listed here. Was anything put up on the website for the different proposals at all? No. Okay. Do we want to name the companies at all, or?
And
I think
Dave, can you give us more? There were actually three that we talked to. One was not able at all. Dave, maybe you can give us a little bit.
Yeah, the two that have submitted proposals are Keystone Municipal Solutions out of Harrisburg and Nicole Beckett, who works with the Minor, MEYNER Center out of Lafayette College or University.
And I believe that was the cheaper bid, but she
The-
can't start for a month, is that correct?
The proposals are very similar. Ms. Beckett's proposal has a maximum, that's an hourly rate, but the maximum of $8,500. Keystone Municipal had a flat fee, I believe it was $12,500. Essentially, they would do the same thing, help with the advertising of the position, interview candidates, consolidate down to give to the board a number of candidates to consider, help with interviewing, et cetera. So their approaches are very similar. And yeah, Ms. Beckett is very busy, and she was interested in doing it, but would have to put it off a month or so until her schedule frees up.
what's your sense, the better of the two?
Well, I think they're both pretty highly recommended, but there was a third company, get her name, who was recommended from
From Euclid.
Euclid Township, who came very highly recommended. But she also was very busy at this point and couldn't accept the job, so she recommended Nicole Beckett out of the minor and she came highly recommended.
That name is coming up.
Yeah, so, and I will tell you that I have been involved with other municipalities who have conducted searches using the minor center, and they've been very happy with them and very successful in the past. Miss Beckett was not the person that was doing it when I was involved. The minor center has retired, so I don't have any direct experience with Miss Beckett, but she worked under the director that was there at the time.
Her name keeps coming up from the
Yeah.
other people we're
Yeah.
talking to.
They've been very
I-
happy,
I
and they
think-
both supply a list of townships and boroughs that they've done this with over the past several years.
If anyone in the audience would like to comment or ask any questions on that, this would be a good time.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve minor for the manager search.
I will second that. I sure wish we had motion.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we've approved that, then we'll go with mine.
Off and running.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it'll take another month, but at least we can get
Yeah.
on her
So
docket.
there's some preliminary things that need to be done. Would you like me to communicate with her or Jim? Doesn't matter.
Jim, you probably have worked with them before.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's fine if you follow up with that. Unless you feel you left any unfinished
No,
business.
no, I just
Thank you for
did
doing that.
what I did to keep it moving for you.
Great,
I'll gladly turn it over to Jim.
great. Okay, and we also we need a motion to approve advertise equipment bid, but we don't have the motions. So do you know what that is for?
Yeah, for the rental, when the works needs to use equipment for certain jobs. Then they put it out, that's what it is before. And it's.
So it's an open bid.
It's been it was last year. And, he just supplies equipment as needed.
And it's the same sense for the snowplow.
So,
Same thing.
so we're just approving the advertisement,
Yes.
not,
They're not the,
so the same ads you used before,
Mhm.
we're advertising. for
Okay.
proposals.
Yeah.
we don't have them here, but
We're advertising for proposals.
Okay. I'll make the motion to approve the advertisement of the equipment and snowplow bid.
And I'll second the motion.
and does anyone have a comment on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Please
Aye.
through.
Aye. So that's approved. And if we can do the same for the snowplow bid.
I should have.
You combine
I combine them, was that okay? All right, cool. Great. All right, so, the question was if we had time to take public comments now or later.
Yeah, I would
It's gonna
take
be
it
a long
now. I
time
would
for-
take it now.
okay. All right, if
before,
anyone has any public comments, please.
Other than
This
the
would be
agenda
good.
items.
On non-agenda item.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe
non-agenda
you're all-
items.
You might all be here for the conditional use, and that's fine too, we can get right into it.
I do have something.
Okay.
I do have.
Would you like to come up? Thank you.
Denise Hill.
I'm just here to express concern about what's going on down on St. Andrews Road. I actually went by there today and they had the road blocked for over 20 minutes loading and unloading equipment. They are bulldozing somebody's driveway between 17 and 23. He didn't have a number on his mailbox. They're bulldozing through a stream. They have open water with no silt things. I don't think there's a permit back there, but it's a lot of water and a lot of mud, about 40 feet along the roadway. And I don't know that anybody knows of it, but with a township that has as much environmental, lien, somebody should go down there and look at it
When did you see this?
today.
Yeah,
But it's been going on since last week.
Now, our zoning officers here, it looks like you have a comment too.
Yes, I actually already, I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet. We already got a video clip on my phone from the roadmaster and DEP's already been contact.
Oh, great.
I too took a video of it today because it was so.
I haven't looked at it yet, he was, very surprised.
Do you need more? Do you want to see her video clip? Maybe you can give her your
No,
information.
my
You have
plan
enough.
was if I got on here breakfast tomorrow morning. Then I was gonna try
Okay.
to take a drive by.
They actually had dropped off another bulldozer today and they were up behind the pond bulldozing in what appeared to be wetlands, but you can't really see up there, so.
Thank you very
It's a
much.
big one.
Is this,
DEP will be involved.
is this on the south side of St. Andrews?
It's right behind the Ludwig's when you go down to the dirt part and you go around the curve where the farm is. It's the first property on the left.
The
Thank
flat
you.
section.
Also known as the southern part.
Okay, maybe that didn't have my orientation.
Karen Lampy, I just was curious about what the status of the event ordinance is right now. And will there be an update?
We're
I
looking to
think
put on the
we- I
agenda
think
for
we
next.
Posted the last update to the
Was that the
ordinance.
most recent?
I think that's, I believe the most recent one is posted and we advertised it for next month's agenda, that it would be, voted on at that time.
Thank you.
Mhm. Anyone else? Okay, well, if that's it, with no further ado, I think we'll move into the conditional use hearing, and sorry to keep you all waiting, but it's, we're gonna try and keep things moving. Thank you. What time is it? I do want to mention too that we're hoping we can get through in the next 2 hours. Is that possible or no?
I intend to present my case within 20 minutes.
Okay, excellent,
So
excellent. Okay.
I'm hoping to move this along. as
Because if it goes more than 2 hours, we may need to continue, so. Mention that.
And before we start, I just want to make sure that everybody has the conditional use application, including the attachments with the two diagrams of the seating inside and outside. Do you all have?
I have
We-
seen them,
we
but they're
have
not in our binder.
I'm gonna, Mr. Moore, I'm gonna identify those exhibits as board exhibits, and I think I have extra copies here for the board of what
Yeah,
you're
I
talking.
think it'd be helpful for
Yeah.
the board to have them in front of them.
Right.
And that's fine if you make them board exhibits. And then I had two exhibits. The petition that was signed by the number of people, do they have copies of that?
No.
Not seen that yet, but you can hand it up. Let's get the meeting started.
Okay.
And
very
I'm
good.
turning this over to Dave. Dave is going to be my.
Okay. And then you can, I'll turn it over to you in a minute. So, welcome all, ladies and gentlemen. Tommy, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we're now about to start a hearing with regard to a conditional use application that was filed by, and the applicant is,
Excuse me, before you get started.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, do we have more witnesses coming that we need these chairs in the front for? I'm seeing a lot of people sitting around the edges and. Does anyone know?
anyone else?
Hoping to speak with the zoning officer and the township engineer.
They're here.
I'm just asking if there's 8 chairs, could, we could allow people if they would prefer more comfortable seating. Okay, if anyone would like to sit up front, they're welcome to. Thank you.
That's fine. It's the conditional application and the location is 1406 Hollow Road, Birch Runville, PA. The applicants are Ruth, I'm sorry with the name, Bachel and Francis Bachel. Bachel, is that right?
Pascal.
Pascal.
Pascal, thank you. P-A-S-C-A-L. P-A-S-C-A-L. Yes. So we have a court reporter present who is going to take down everything that's said tonight. He may ask you to spell your name when you're called as a witness. And for the ladies and gentlemen of the audience, the applicant is represented by counsel. There's one neighbor who is represented by counsel. So we're going to conduct this as a hearing. We have to be a little bit more formal than we normally are. If anyone wishes to be a party to this matter, and by being a party, you would, if you receive notice from the township that you live within 500 feet, you have right to be a party. And if you have some sort of nexus to this property, somehow you're affected by it that differently than your neighbors are, you have a right to be a party. To be a party means that you could ask questions of the witnesses tonight and present evidence. And you potentially have a right to appeal, your own right of appeal, separate from the township's right of appeal and the applicants and the neighbor's right of appeal. So if anyone wishes to be a party, identified as a party, I have a list here. I would need you to come out and sign and give your name and address, indicate that you wish to be a party. If there's anyone. Okay, I'm gonna leave it here. If anyone changes their mind, you want to give me your entry of appearance?
Could you go over again what a party is?
Well, so to be a party, you have to have standing. And standing in these circumstances is if you live within 500 feet, or own property within 500 feet. And if you receive notice from the township, you're within 500 feet, okay? So that's number one. Or number two, even if you're not within 500 feet, if you can show us or tell us how you're impacted about how this property is being used or is proposed to be used, you could be considered a party. Okay, and if you are a party, then tonight you can ask questions of the witness and present your own evidence if you wish. And you potentially would have appellate rights to just go further. Okay, if you're not a party, you can speak tonight for or against. That doesn't, being a party doesn't mean
So if you're a party, you don't have to ask any questions.
no.
But you can.
No, you can't, you can, but if you want to preserve your potential right to appeal, you might want to be a party and ask to be a party.
So are you saying that if we are a neighbor, we should sign it? Just in case?
Well, I'm not suggesting one way or other. What I'm suggesting is that you may have certain rights if you are a party versus not being a party. So just give your name and address and indicate with the check there. They can take it up. Yeah, next to whether you want to be,
Okay, do I need my address if I got it? Notice.
I would prefer your address.
Neighbors. We are.
And while they're doing that, Tommy, if you're okay, there's some housekeeping I'd like to do while we're waiting for everyone to sign the list. There are some exhibits, so
Do you need to ask, I know those two live by them. Do you need to ask any questions of the people that are signing up there?
no, I'm gonna go over the list, let them sign it. So the list of exhibits, board exhibits, will be B1 will be the application.
Nice to see the Bertrand neighbor.
Yeah.
B2 will be the proof of publication. We did not have that return yet, Kathy, but do we know when it was published?
Yeah,
And when was it published?
it was July 30th and August 12th.
And in what publication?
Town Mercury.
We'll attach that as part of the record as B2 when we receive it. B3 will be affidavit of posting, which I received from the zoning officer, Tracy Franny, indicating where the posting was placed on the property. B4 will be the mailing, and that is to all the residents within 500 feet. And I have a list of addresses, names and addresses, and all of the notices that were sent to those on the list. Let me just get through this. B5 is a memo dated May 14, 2024, from the township zoning officer to the township manager. regarding this property. B6 is a review letter from the township engineer, Norm Ulrich, dated June 17, 2024, regarding this property to the township manager. And B7 is the opinion and order of the Board of Supervisors of West Vincent Township, decision dated June 6, 2016, regarding this property. Okay, in a housekeeping matter, this, at the request of the applicant and concurrence from the protestant, the matter was removed from the planning commission agenda by agreement of the parties. Was removed from the planning commission, so was not considered by the township planning commission. Okay. All right, so with that, do we have any other housekeeping?
Thank you
Need to attend?
for clearing that up.
Okay. And Tom, you have Ms. Kimberly's, okay, that's good. All right, Mr. Martin, would you like to identify yourself just for the record?
Yes, George Martin, the attorney for the applicant, in 47 Janie Lane, Chester Springs, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So with that, I have a sign-in sheet here. Ms. Vency on behalf of Steve Sladek. Mr. Sladek, who lives within 500 feet.
His address is 1420 Hollow Road. His property is adjacent to the subject property.
Okay. Next person list is, okay. George, I can't read your writing. George Ninos,
CHINOS.
and you live at 1415 Hollow Road. Did you receive notice?
Yes.
Ruth W. Roth,
Suzanne.
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 Oh, I'm sorry.
Ruth and Suzanne don't go together.
I guess not. And your address? And you're within 500 feet? You received notice?
Yes.
Okay, Alan Vandergriff. Alan,
Back there.
okay, what's your address?
1331 Holland.
Are you within 500 feet? You received notice? It looks like Rachel Gaffey or Gaffrey? Gaffey, what's your address? Did you receive notice from the township? Okay. Tricia Conlin,
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 Conlin.
right,
And what's your address?
2154 Miller Road.
Are you within 500 feet?
No.
Where are you in relationship to the applicant? Where do you live in relation to the applicant?
A mile away.
Okay, and how are you impacted by this application?
Our daughters both live within 500 feet.
Your daughters live within 500. Okay. Do you have any objection?
I have no objection.
No objection to party status, okay.
Michael.
Oh, I see, you're Tricia and Michael are together, okay. And Sue Krug. And, did you receive notice from the township?
Yes.
And Ethan. I can't. Schofield, thank you.
Yes, I
And you received notice?
Yes.
You're at,
did. 2210 Pleasant Spring.
okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to be a party? All right, seeing none. Everyone's accepted as a party. Okay, with that, Mr. Martin, I think we're ready to turn the hearing over to you.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that the supervisors all have the conditional use application and that it includes the two documents inside regarding the seating.
I just handed them copies.
Okay, very good. And I had two exhibits that I had submitted previously. One is a petition, which was signed by multiple people in support of the conditional use application. I would like that to be marked as an exhibit.
Okay, well, we're gonna call that applicant one. And you said that's a petition?
Yes. And my client will refer to that in his testimony.
Okay.
Documented. And the second thing is a letter from Todd and Todd regarding parking. That was sent to the Board of Supervisors.
What is the date of that letter?
It's not dated.
Okay,
Just get up to him. That's like the last page.
And my client will testify to that.
okay, we're gonna mark that as A2.
Give it to her. This is the rest of it. So you might
For
not
this?
know. I don't think we even.
Okay.
And with that, I would like to present testimony of my client.
Mr. Schultzer, if I may, do you have copies of these exhibits for me?
Yeah, I had asked them to send you exhibits previously.
I did not receive any exhibits.
This is all one, this is A1. We can make copies when we get a chance.
Here's
So I would need to now,
That's it.
and then do I have a copy of A1?
A1
Petition.
is the petition and
26
we'll-
page. petition.
we'll have copies made.
I do, thank you, yep. And then I have an A1 and A2, and what is this going to be? You know,
I'm just gonna, that is not gonna be an exhibit, but I think it would be helpful for everybody, just in terms of the parking spaces and the seating. And we can argue about whether it's accurate, but I think it will be helpful for everyone to have a copy of that.
Even though you're saying it's not gonna be an exhibit, so that we can identify it, why don't
We
we
can identify.
give it a number? You don't have to have it admitted,
That's fine,
but we'll call that A3.
that's fine.
And did you have a copy for me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You also have the to
Okay, so it's-
I want this one.
No, we're good.
Okay. So A3 is a one-page document on George and Christy Martin letterhead that says seating butterscotch at the top.
And do you have one more copy of the conditional use application that I can give to my client?
Wait. Don't want to give up my copy. So do we have an extra copy?
No,
of the application? Okay, all right, okay,
But this is the Lord's petition.
good.
You already have this, the top
I have that,
letter.
yeah.
I think I gave mine away.
Okay, so Mark, when you're ready, yep. We swear,
Sir, I have to swear you in. Sir, do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
That's right.
Thank you. Swear. Just keep your voice up.
Would you give your name and your home address to the supervisors?
My name is Francis Pascal. My home address is 280 Nottingham Drive in Spring City.
And are you the owner of the Bertrandville Store Cafe?
Yes,
How long have you been the owner of the Bertrandville Store Cafe?
25 years.
And before that 25 years, how long have you been in the restaurant business?
62, I was 15, so.
62 minus 15, so I think that's 47.
Something like that.
47 years. And with the Bertrandville Store Cafe, how many people does that seat?
About 38 people.
And 38.
38, I'm sorry.
And when is that business open?
believe it was 1999.
No, no, what hours of the day
Oh, no, sorry,
and what days
about
of the week?
6 o'clock in PM. And we take in last reservation 8:30,
And what days of the week are you open?
from Wednesday to Saturday.
Wednesday to Saturday.
Correct.
Now, more recently, did you and your wife open up the Butterscotch Cafe across the street?
Correct.
And when was that?
About. Was it 7 years ago?
And when is that business open?
I don't have the accurate date.
No, again, hours
Oh,
of the
okay, I'm so
day
sorry.
and days of the week.
So we open 9 AM to 2:30. 2:30, what? 2 o'clock on, so Wednesday to Thursday, correct? And Friday, Saturday and Sunday, 9 AM to 3 PM.
So that the Bertramville Store Cafe and the Butterscotch Cafe are not open at the same time. So there's no issue with parking between the two of them.
That's correct.
Now, the conditional use application involves the Butterscotch Cafe and the indoor seating, the outdoor seating, the occasional live music, the baking on premises, and the parking. I'm gonna go through those issues one at a time.
Yes.
And the first thing that I'm gonna ask you to do is to take a look at the conditional use application where it says parking lot. And it has tables there. And some say 4 and some say 2. Is that an accurate depiction of the seating that you have outside at the Butterscotch Cafe?
Yes.
And did, in fact, you and I go there today and
Correct.
confirm that this is accurate. Now, there's another one that's in the conditional use application that shows seating, and it says stairs and it says back room. Again, is that an accurate depiction of the seating that is in the back room that is the subject of this conditional use hearing?
Yes.
And again, did we confirm that that's accurate today?
Yes.
Now, again, I'm going to refer to this document that I prepared that just summarizes what is on those two exhibits that are part of the conditional use application. Now, with the Butterscotch Cafe, the initial room that you go into when you enter there, how much seating is there in that room?
14
14
seats.
And then if we look at the exhibit that we had, on the outside seating, there are 4 tables of 11, is that correct?
Correct.
So that would be 44 seats.
Yes.
And there are 7 tables of 2, which would be 14 seats.
Yes.
So that would be 58 seats,
Correct.
correct? Now, in the back room that is depicted in the other exhibit, you have 5 tables of 4, correct?
Correct.
And 3 tables of 6,
Yes.
and 2 tables of 2.
Correct.
So that's 20 plus 18 plus 4, that would be 42 total seats
Correct.
in the back room.
Yes.
So if we take the inside first room, all of the outside seating, and all of the back room seating, that would be a total of 114 seats.
Yes.
Now let's talk about parking. The ordinance says that we should have 1 parking spot for every 2 people. Now, at the side of the Bertramville Store Cafe, there's parking there.
Yes.
And how many parking spots are along the side of the cafe?
12 parking.
Now, in the parking lot that's next to Butterscotch Cafe, how many parking spots are there?
20 to 24.
Now, did you and I also have a conversation with Ryan Todd when we first filed this application?
Correct.
Okay, and did we talk to Ryan and did he agree that he was more than happy to offer the
parking at his property at 2200 Flowing Springs Road for the Butterscotch Cafe when the parking lot got full.
Correct.
And then immediately after that, did he send this letter to the supervisors?
Yes.
I would ask that A2 be admitted.
I'm gonna,
Do you have any objection?
I do object. I mean, I know your evidence rules will be lenient this evening, but I know the objection. I don't, is Mr. Todd here to testify? as to
If
the matter?
necessary, I will ask Mr. Todd to take a night off from his time to come in here and testify that he wrote this letter and sent it to the supervisors. If that's necessary, we'll do that. I don't think it's necessary.
I had questions about the letter. How much parking does he require? I don't know what his business is.
Well, so I suppose Mr. Todd will have to be brought in as a witness. So why don't we hold off on approving this or admitting it into evidence to see if Mr. Todd comes in? Okay, either one of you can call him.
Now, Mr. Todd says that he has more than 20 parking spots. And, in fact, did we go up there and count 24 parking spots?
24, correct.
Now, in addition, at the property that you own there, is there a barn along the side of Flowing Springs Road?
Yes,
And is there parking next to the barn that you could use?
yes,
And how many parking spots are there?
6.
And what would be your intention in terms of using those 6 spots? Would that be for your staff?
For my staff, mostly correct.
So that they wouldn't need to take up the other spaces?
Yes.
Did we also take a look at, the, property? And do you have room for additional spaces on your property next to Mr. Slade's property? And how much room was there for parking?
Another 6 space.
And that space, is that something that you could use all the time? Or there are certain times a year when you wouldn't be able to use those 6 spaces?
Well, let's say in the winter when the ground is very wet or after 2-3 days of rain, we actually put something for the customer not to park there.
Sorry, can you repeat the last part?
So we only use this space when it's available, so no rain or no winter. So if the weather is dry, then we can use it.
Okay.
So if you'll refer to the document that I prepared that says seating at Butterscotch and parking at Butterscotch. If we add the smaller numbers, like if it's 20 to 24, if we take 20 rather than 24, we have 58 seats available at a
Correct.
minimum.
Correct.
And if we completely fill all 24, and the additional 6 spaces, how many would we have?
74.
One of the other issues has been a complaint about live music. From the time that you owned the Bertrandville Store Cafe, 25 years now, have people done caroling on Christmas Eve?
Yes.
And have you allowed that? Has that been
Yes.
something that
absolutely.
you allow?
Yes.
And that was done where?
It was done in the front of Bertrandville Cafe on the street and on the porch too.
On
And
the
in-
street and on the porch.
And on the front porch of Bertrandville Cafe, yes.
And in the last 2 years, for safety reasons, did you ask them to move that over to the Butterscotch Cafe so that they weren't in the street?
Correct.
Have you ever had any complaints about people Christmas caroling on Christmas Eve?
Never, no.
In addition to the Christmas caroling on Christmas Eve, has there been other live music at the Butterscotch Cafe in the last year?
Yes.
And how many times?
In my recollection, 2 or 3.
Okay, and who played?
Um,
Dave and Donna?
yes.
Who's that?
Dave and Donna. And when they played, did they have any kind of amplification or was it acoustic?
It's acoustic, yes.
Did you have any complaints? from anybody about
Not
noise?
that I know.
One of the other issues, that was raised, was, food preparation at the Butterscotch. So where do you do all of your cooking for both the cafe and the Butterscotch? Where do you do your cooking?
So all the cooking preparation food is done at Bertrand Cafe on the Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
So it's all done at the
Bertrand Cafe.
Bertrand.
Correct.
Okay.
The day that we are closed.
Apart from that, I suppose.
I think it's the days that we were closed.
Do you do any cooking at the Butterscotch Cafe?
We don't do cooking. Cooking is, my description of cooking for Bertrand Cafe is, let's break it down. So let's say you do a vegetable wrap with meat. You're cooking the meat, you bring it to, cook it for a while, you put some sauce, you bring, to boil, and they have to cook for like, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is. I'm sorry, you're fine. I apologize. Sorry, I'm sorry. I forgot about you.
After you wrapped it up, you got lost.
So yes, we do cooking at Bertrand Cafe,
Okay.
which require to use a stove. And a long, I guess it's a long process. Butterscotch on the other side is not cooking. What we're doing is a pastry. So we actually putting ingredient together, flour, powder, eggs. They mix together, you make a dough, and you put the dough in, ramekin or whatever it is, and you bake in the oven.
And would you like to be able to continue to bake at
I'd love to
Butterscotch
do that,
Cafe?
yes.
Could I have a copy of the exhibit of the petition?
Sure.
That's this.
So, the petition, this,
For instance, I'm gonna show you this petition, which is 26 pages, which has a lot of names on it. Which is signed by people who support the application to continue serving outside. Can you tell me, was that something you did at my suggestion?
Yes.
And how long did you have that petition out to get all those signatures?
A bit over a month.
No.
Was it
2 or 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks?
2 or 3 weeks? I would ask that that be admitted as an exhibit.
any objection?
I'm gonna object just to the relevance. I mean, we're certainly not here to debate the quality of the food or the cooking or what's being served or if people enjoy the restaurant. What I would be curious to know is how many signatures on there are actually residents of your township. That, I think that could be relevant. But it looks like there's people from various other municipalities.
I
Not
think the
quite sure-
exhibit speaks for
If you let me
itself.
finish, I'm not quite sure how that's relevant to this evening.
Well, we'll accept it as an exhibit, for what it's worth. We can read the addresses.
That's
and
fine.
to make our own judgment on that.
And I would
Okay.
simply note that a number of them are from West Vincent.
Okay.
I have no further questions you can cross-examine.
Any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Pascal, my name is Kim Benzie. I'm with the law firm of Buckley Bryan, McGuire and Morris. And I'm here on behalf of your neighbors to ask you a couple questions. With respect to your calculations on parking. So these look like there's, I guess a list that you created yourself, and I'm curious, did you have any kind of construction person, engineer, someone that could actually measure parking spaces? Did someone go out there with you and actually figure out exactly how many parking spaces can fit in these locations?
No,
On the Todd property, what other businesses on the Todd property?
only Todd.
What,
Only
Todd.
Todd.
what do they do? What's their
An
business?
accounting firm.
Accounting. Couple questions.
Um, Francis, you didn't get an engineer to count the parking spaces. Have you looked at the parking lot and counted the cars in the parking lot?
I did,
And
yes,
is it 20 to 24 as indicated?
correct,
And is it 12 as indicated?
correct,
And is it 20 to 24 as indicated?
yes.
I have no further questions.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions and I'll leave it to the board to ask some questions. And then anyone who is listed as a party who wishes to come up and ask a question, you can do it then. So Pasquale, getting back to the music, the David Donna group, where do they play?
They play on the grass,
And where,
which is next to the parking lot, so you have a gravel, and then next to the gravel, we have a space where the picnic tables are.
is that at the cafe?
That's the butterscotch, yes.
Butterscotch Cafe, okay,
Thanks, Tricia.
got it. And you said it's just 2 or 3 times they've done that?
Correct.
And what days of the week and what hours have they done it?
Most likely, if I recall, the weekend, Saturday or Sunday.
And is it your request as part of this application to allow that to continue?
If I am able to, yes.
And what is your proposal with regard to days of the week and hours that they would do that, times of day that they would do that with their?
Again, Saturday, Sunday, maybe for a few hours, 2 hours maximum,
In the mornings, in the afternoons, in the
or the late
evenings?
morning. Between 11 and 1, probably. Yes.
Till something.
Between 11 and 1 p.m.
You were talking about the seating that's inside the first room at the Butterscotch. So is that shown on the plan?
It is not.
It is not, okay. So that's in addition to what you're showing here. It's part of exhibit B1, is that right?
Yes, and that was approved at the 2016 conditional use hearing.
Okay.
That's why we didn't include it.
Other than those, I think we have 14 seats that are inside the first room. Other than those, are there any other seats that are not shown on either page of B1? Are any others?
No,
That's it. Okay. So it's those that are shown on B1 and the 14 seats that are inside the first room.
yes.
Okay. As far as seating is concerned. Do you propose to change the hours of the hours of operation of either Birch Run Cafe or the Butterscotch?
No.
And what days and what hours of the day do your patrons use the parking at Mr. Todd's property? Are they using it now?
They use it now when the parking lot is full, yes.
Okay, do you know what days of the week, what times of day?
I would say mostly the weekend. We have more traffic on the weekend, so Saturday, Sunday for sure. Saturday.
And it's only needed for overflow parking for the Butterscotch?
Yes, sir.
The parking you have is sufficient for Birch Run, the Birch Run Cafe, is that right?
Yes.
Now, the 6 spaces that you said are weather dependent. So are they on grass, on gravel? What is the composition of the parking area of the 6 spaces that you say are affected by the weather?
A portion is gravel and the other portion is grass.
Okay, does any member of the board have any questions of Mr. Pascal?
Yeah, I just have one. I don't know if it's going to be germane or not, but the 6 spaces that are weather dependent, if you were to put more gravel down there, could they be used all year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's not any permit from the township.
And isn't it true that you have more parking on your property up on Flowing Springs Road?
What's the next part?
I asked if it was true that he has more parking on Flowing Springs Road, which would be east of heading from the Butterscotch Cafe.
So
On Flowing Springs, on the same side, you get your barn, couple of parking spaces out in
Correct.
front of the barn.
Yes,
And then beyond that,
yes, sir.
there is room,
For
which
another-
once again,
Yes,
There's room.
and there's room for more parking. Up
an
in there,
additional 6 parking.
additional.
Yes,
Is that some of the parking that's some of the parking you've included?
I'm sorry.
Did you already include those
Yes.
spaces? Part of
That's
the
barn.
the barn parking, okay.
Okay,
But,
so unfortunately,
minute.
I gave mine away.
All right,
I'll
well,
look at yours later.
Okay, I meant above the barn area.
Yeah, next to the barn, you can put another
Yes,
4
exactly.
cars.
Yeah, yeah. But then above it, heading in the east direction, heading uphill.
Only to Todd's office, that's it. No,
Okay, all right.
Todd's office, that's it. Used to Todd's office.
Oh, you said only to Todd's office,
right.
that's it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Go ahead.
anyone else?
Okay, so one question I had is any of your parking considered ADA compliant? I know that was something that was supposed to be.
yes, so we do have a sign for handicap parking, which I believe is on the wrong side of the building. And we're thinking about moving to the opposite side, right, where is already paved or ground there. I believe Tracy took some pictures, so I'm not sure if that's sufficient. I guess it's for you to decide, because
So when you stay on the other side of the building?
like if you face Butterscotch, the sign for handicap parking is on the left side, on the other side of the bridge. We're thinking about relocate that sign to the right of the building, which is already paved. We have like asphalt, I guess it's called.
Okay, because I think it does need to be paid to be ADA.
That's
compliant,
paid.
right?
Don't get Tom, just
No?
ask questions.
Okay, sorry. I also wanted to ask, on the Todd's property, does any of that 20 to 24 spaces include schoolhouse parking? Schoolhouse park, we have a park that's next to
I'm not
the
sure.
Todd's,
That's a good
or is,
question.
I'm not, I wasn't sure that there were that many, so I'm wondering if that.
I would imagine so, yes.
So it's the whole thing.
I think so,
Okay.
yes. No, not 100% sure.
Yes, I can tell you, when we counted the cars, it included the entire parking lot, including the part that relates to the park.
Okay. Do we know how many spaces are?
It was 20 to 24,
20 to 24, correct. So it makes sense, yes.
depending on how close people park.
We don't know how many are at Schoolhouse Park. And also I just wanted to mention that Dave was here, and I don't know if he still is, we wanted to ask him at all about, his music that. The use
Well,
amplification.
let's them, we'll let them decide who they want to bring as witnesses.
Okay.
Okay, get back to you if you have any other follow-up.
That was my only question.
Okay. Is anyone else, you have a question, Sarah? Go ahead.
So, not
Okay,
getting
so-
around the village
Excuse
much
me.
anymore, but my impression,
Hold on, Sarah.
We're asking if we can get the microphone closer to you. We're having trouble hearing. you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Better?
Both of you, everybody was speaking. They do.
well, they work after a fashion. So
Sarah has
I do have a question, although I don't get to the center of town very often. I have heard that when there is music, it is causes much more congestion, more parking on the street, more parking up at Todd and Todd. And so I'm wondering if that is a different issue than parking for your wonderful delights from the Butterscotch pastry shop. And so do you have an impression that everything sort of balances out from one kind of event to the other? Or is there a kind of event that causes you more traffic problems?
So what you say is true. We do have more traffic, a little more traffic when music play. The parking with Todd and Todd company, I was not aware I could use this parking before. So now that I'm allowed to use this parking, it will benefit the people to parking there when we have music live.
Okay, has anyone mentioned if you needed to apply to use the township parking?
Could you repeat, please?
Has there been any approach that would cause you to think you wanted to apply to the township to use their parking for your event?
Yes.
What happened?
Maybe I didn't answer the question. I didn't answer the question.
No, he hasn't.
Okay, we have a gazebo up here that we rent out. So people apply to use it and they pay a fee for it. So we don't do that in many of our parks, but right now it's a commercial use in a not-for-profit park. So I think we're working on our event ordinance, and this may be one of those anomalies we need to look at there.
Okay.
So I don't know what we want to do, but I know that in terms of being equitable across different parks and different uses, we need to be aware of that.
Okay.
So, there are other users of the schoolhouse park property. There was a bike tour up there one day. It was their water station. They had big ice truck filling up bottles and stuff like that. Do you engage in those at all?
I do not.
Okay, they just happen right there.
Correct.
And so would it benefit you if you had that spot reserved when another use might encroach on you wanting to use it for music parking?
Yes.
I just trying to think of what are the issues that we might encounter. You talked about the barn parking for the staff. My impression is the half barn that's on the east side of Flowing Springs. You said it has 4 spots. I don't think it has any further spots from your half barn up to Schoolhouse Road. There's not shoulder space. There's not a place to safely put a car. Or is there a spot? I'm not aware of.
Well, the space after the barn is actually clear, so it's grass, and we actually mow every week. In fact, every night when the Birchville Cafe.
Hold on 1 second. You start that answer again. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So every night when Birchville Cafe is open, I have the staff parking there. My staff, including myself, is about 7 cars. So we're actually using all this space for the staff and allow me to have more customer park in the back of Birchville. And for Butterscotch, we do the same thing too. When the staff arrive, instead to park in the back of Birchville or in the Butterscotch parking lot, we have it in park next to the barn. And I believe it's about 5 cars, 6 cars.
Anything else?
Mm.
I'm good. All right, anyone who asked to be a party, have any questions of this witness? If you do, come on. All right,
Any questions for the witness or statement?
just right now is just questions for the witness. You'll get a chance to do that in a bit, okay? All right, no, seeing none. Mr. Martin, you have any other, well, I'm sorry, do you have any other questions of this witness?
I do have a few.
Okay.
I just want to note for the record, I'm just a little bit concerned only because it's the applicant's duty to put on their application. So I'm just a little concerned. I don't know if the supervisors understand the role is not to suggest ways to find more parking. It's the applicant's duty as part of the conditional use application to present his case and show you that he has required parking or that he's entitled to a conditional use application.
We understand that. We'll judge on this,
Thank
on
you.
this application.
Thank you. So one of the questions I have is I'm gonna refer to A3, Mr. Pascal. In A3, I want to walk through the parking and where it's actually located. So parking for Butterscotch is the side of cafe. So I'm assuming if someone parks on the side of that cafe, they can walk right into the Butterscotch pastry shop, correct?
Correct.
With respect to the parking lot, that's the one that's right adjacent to the pastry shop. I'm assuming again that those clients could walk directly into the Butterscotch pastry shop, correct?
Yes.
So with respect to the Todd property, which we now are also finding out, looks like it's also, you're planning on using some of the schoolhouse park area to park too. How would visitors to the Butterscotch pastry get to your pastry shop from the Todd property? How would they get there?
Park the car and walk down the street.
They walk down the street.
It's about 5 minutes walk, I believe.
Is there any sidewalk on that street?
I did clear the path on the left side of the barn where people actually walk there if it's a traffic.
Is there an actual sidewalk, little walk station?
No sidewalk, just grass.
Thank you. With respect to the barn parking, how would clients get to your pastry shop if they park near the barn?
Walk to the parking.
Would they be walking on the street?
Yes.
Is there a sidewalk in that area?
No.
And with respect to these new spaces that are, I'm not quite sure where they are, how would they get to the Butterscotch Cafe from the new spaces that are weather dependent?
Could you specify the new space?
It's on your chart.
The ones that we talked about that are right next to Mr. Slade's property.
Oh, yes. Park there and just walk to the pastry shop.
So where are they be walking? On the street again?
On the grass?
On the grass? Is there a sidewalk in that area?
No.
And then you were describing where your employees park, and I apologize, I didn't quite follow where you have your employees park.
Next to the barn, along the barn and next to the barn.
So are they, when you say, so barn parking, that's where your staff is parking, those are 6 spots.
Correct.
So those spots aren't used by any clients coming to visit the Butterscotch pastry shop.
No, only when my staff arrive to work, which is when Butterscotch is closed.
I'm not sure I'm understanding that.
Burchellville Cafe and Butterscotch are 2 different operations.
Understood.
Butterscotch is open in the morning, Burchellville in the evening.
Mhm.
My staff only use these parking spots in the evening after Butterscotch is closed.
Okay, but there's obviously when Butterscotch Cafe is open, you obviously have employees that are working there on site, correct?
Yes,
And where do they park?
on some spot, I'm sorry, yes,
Thank you.
Same spot.
some spot.
You have a follow-up question?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
one more question. Regarding the walk from the Todd property to your property, to the cafe. Is it true that you do own the entire area from, I guess, the corner of where the parking would be all the way down to?
Schoolhouse line, yes,
You own that property?
yes.
Mr. Moore, do you have any redirect?
No,
Okay, so I think we're finished with this witness. Do you have any other witnesses?
no.
Almost. We just said that from Mr. Slade's new parking spot, they come across the grass straight to the Butterscotch. Right? So,
I think
but,
that's what you said.
but we have we had an opinion from our police department or our traffic safety people about having people coming, walking on that segment of Flowing Springs Road from parking to parking along that part of that road, which, you know, it's got I don't think of it as a one-lane bridge, but most people think it's a half-lane bridge. So, there's a narrow part of the road there. Is any part of this process related to safety, or is that like Norm's problem?
Well, I think we can ask the applicant's attorney whether you have any planned testimony in regard to safety of pedestrians.
As far as that goes, people park in the Butterscotch parking lot and walk across the street, exactly where you're talking about, to go to the post office constantly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been used that way for 100 years.
Okay, and it's part of a shared parking agreement we have there, so, but I'm just it's George, I appreciate what you're saying, but having a dangerous situation for 100 years doesn't change it from being a dangerous situation.
I'd also point out it's a four-way stop sign. Everybody has to come to a stop at the corner there.
You don't ride a bicycle, do you?
I do ride a bicycle.
Oh, okay, through that intersection.
I don't go through the stops.
I'm
Good.
I'm
But
gonna
I
object
read
at
this
this point, but at this point, you're testifying, and I need to respond, that my questions had to do with
I'm sorry,
parking lot up near Mr.
Todd and Todd,
Todd's property. That was my focus.
I'm sorry, I got us off track.
That's fine. And you have no other witnesses.
I have no other witnesses. I know that the two township employees were asked to be here.
Right.
And rather than have them waste another night of their time, if we could put on their testimony.
Well, they're here at the request of Ms. Benzie.
Correct.
So we will, if you're finished,
I'm finished.
then I'll see if we have any evidence or testimony.
Just one quick thing to follow up with what I was asking before. The property that you own, is there any possibility of someone walking on that property or making a path so that people do not need to walk around the curb? From the Todds to the campus? Is that a possibility?
No,
All right, so. Would you like to present any evidence? or
I do. I'd like
testimony?
to present my client, and then I do have questions of the township engineer and the township.
They're both here.
Great,
They're both
so
here.
I'd like to start with my client.
Okay, would you like to have them sworn in?
I would.
I do.
And I have series of exhibits.
You have them identified, oh, great.
What I'd like to do, if it's okay with, I'm sorry, did you get sworn in? You sworn in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to just run through the exhibits and list them all. And some of them are ones you already have.
That's fine.
And some my client will talk about, and then some the zoning officer and the township engineer will discuss.
That's, I'm gonna identify for the record.
Yep, thank
Go from there.
S1 is a copy of the original conditional use opinion and order dated June 6, 2016. Marked as S2 is the email from the township zoning officer Tracy Franny dated October 17th, 2023. Marked as S3 is the email from township zoning officer Tracy Franny dated February 23rd, 2024. Marked as S4 is the correspondence from township zoning officer Tracy Franny dated March 27th, 2024. Marked as S5 is the conditional use application dated April 24th, 2024. Marked as B6 is a memorandum from Township Zoning Officer Tracy Franny dated May 14th, 2024. Marked as S7 is correspondence from the Township Engineer dated June 17th, 2024. Marked as S8 is the review letter from the Chester County Planning Commission dated June 10th, 2024. Marked as S9 is correspondence from my office dated July 17th, 2024. Marked as S10 is again correspondence from my office dated August 12th, 2024. And marked as S11 is the copy of the township conditional use application, essentially the township form with attachments. And marked as S12 is a series of photographs from Stephen Sladek, and there's a series of 7 photographs. So with that, I'd like to start with some questions I have for It's just
Can I
like,
just note an objection? This is the
Absolutely.
first time I've seen this document. He's been represented for more than a month. Obviously, emails from Tracy Franny to Mr. Sladek, I should have seen this stuff
so
a month ago.
I'm happy to respond to that. So in conditional use hearings before Board of Supervisors, there's no requirement to actually provide exhibits ahead of time. And actually, it's rarely done. So that's why you're just seeing this evening.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm used to professional courtesy. Even if it's not required.
The objection is.
It's never required. You
Go
know
ahead.
that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you. Can you again just state your name for the record?
Steven Slated.
Thank you. And can you describe your property to the board?
Yeah, it's a small 1,100 square foot farmhouse on the corner of Hollow Road and Schoolhouse.
Yep.
Thank you. We bought it as a fixer upper, my wife and I, in 2003. It was our dream house. It's got a little barn on the corner. It's about a little less than an acre lot with a little front yard that is between my house and the Butterscotch Bakery.
Thank you. And would you agree that prior to 2016, you had no major issues or complaints with respect to the Birchmanville Store Cafe or the Butterscotch Pastry Shop?
Actually, it's been since 2020 is when it really all started.
But prior to that, you had no issues with the property?
Nothing
correct?
major, just small stuff that I was a good neighbor and just ignored and went on and let them run their business and be successful.
And generally, you don't have a problem with a small bakery with indoor seating being located adjacent to your home?
Absolutely not. I was excited about it because Francis and Nui have done a fantastic job on the inside and outside of that property. It looks fantastic. Same with the Butterscotch, the Bertrandville Cafe. Both beautiful places, fit right in the neighborhood, makes it look great. Love it. I'm proud to be next to them, actually.
Okay, so then what changed for you with regard to the operations of the pastry shop, and when did this begin?
About 2020, it slowly started adding seats inside and out. It was hardly even noticeable. It happened so slowly. It just kept adding more picnic tables, more seats inside. And then they started having live music. And then the outdoor seating started to have a lot of litter, noise. They actually took down a bunch of screening, a lot of wooded area between my property, between my house and the Butterscotch Bakery. That was legally required screening, so that cut down on a lot of the noise and the lights and the cars coming in at night that park there. Lots of litter on my property. They allow dogs and horses in the dining area, so there's dog poop and horse poop on my property. There was all kinds of litter. And and I just kept dealing with it and hoping it would go away, and it never did.
And so in your property is also, it's a beautiful historic home, is that correct?
Yes.
And it's featured, where was it featured? Somewhere?
It's actually the house that's featured on the Bertrandville Wikipedia page.
Okay, let's move on and look at some pictures. There's a series of pictures that are attached as S12 on the exhibit packet. And if you don't mind, let's walk the supervisors through the pictures so they have an understanding of some of the traffic and parking.
Photographs contain an S12, so.
Yep. Thank you. So S12, it's marked as exhibit 1, the first photograph. Can you describe what's going on there and where your house is in that picture?
Yeah, that's actually all along the front of my house. It's about a dozen cars there. And the cars are even blocking my two driveways, one up about on the intersection and one kind of right in the middle of where the car are.
Okay, when was this taken?
This was on October 8th.
Of 2023, correct?
2023, yes. This was the event that put me over the edge and said, I gotta contact the township and do something about this.
Okay,
Because you can actually see at the top of the picture at the intersection of Hollow and Schoolhouse. The road is essentially a one-lane road now, and cars are going in both directions. And there's a blind corner up there, and I witnessed several cars almost have a head-on collision because they're in the opposite lane going up Hollow Road.
Okay, let's go to the next picture. It's marked, it's part of the same exhibit packet, the S12, and it's exhibit 2.
Same thing, different day. In fact, to this day, I had to actually have my wife come out and stop traffic for me so I could back out of the driveway because I couldn't see in either direction. Nor could I turn the car because the cars are parked so close to my driveway.
And what date was that picture taken?
This was on May 14th. And I did want to note, this is not just when they have live music. This is anytime they have a nice weekend day now, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday day. We have this happen. Wherever there's parking, it fills up in front of my house.
All right, the next picture, exhibit 3. Can you describe what's going on in that picture, please?
Get there. This is actually just a shot to show the chaos that's there, where they mentioned some of the parking spaces and showing the tent they had up during the pandemic. The tent actually took up more parking spaces. So again, parking was everywhere. The intersection was clogging up because cars would sit outside like this blue vehicle is waiting for a parking spot to open inside. And cars are turning around in the driveway. They're actually doing 3-point turnarounds in the middle of the road. It feels like I'm living in Center City.
The next picture is exhibit 4.
I know they're the same, showing that this one's a little blurry, but the point here was showing the cars are parking on both sides of the road.
When was that taken? That
This was June of this year.
Mhm.
I think that might have been 2023. No, that was June of this year.
Okay.
And the cars on the left that are perpendicular to Hollow Road, those I believe are the same as the new spaces mentioned on the
On the chart?
on the parking chart.
On the A3 chart?
Yeah, I think that's the 6 spots. They're perpendicularly parked in the grass, which sometimes, like Francis said, sometimes it's mud.
Mhm. And the next picture, exhibit 5.
This was just to show that the township, one of the few things that I was able to get done was to get these no parking signs put up by the police. Actually, I put them up. Please let me borrow the signs. But there's a sign on the other side that says no parking too, and it just showed that customers disregarded the signs.
Mhm. And the next page, exhibit 6. Again, a different date. What's the date on this?
Different
picture?
date, October 8th, 2023, again, just showing the chaos in the cars. That both these cars are actually on my property. It extends to the back of that silver car.
Mhm. And then the last photo, is that just a photograph of the number?
That was just the employees to show that they have 7 people working there now, and we wanted to make sure there was parking for them as well.
Mhm.
Because, all right, which one?
Yep, that's good. That's good. That's those,
The 7.
the 7. Yep, thank you. So let's move on from the photographs. Thank you. They kind of depict what's going on there with respect to your property, which is very adjacent to the Butterscotch Cafe. Is your understanding that the originally approved seating for the pastry shop was 14 and now it's close to 56 indoors?
Yes and no. The original conditional use said maximum of 14 seats. And when I was in the other day, I had a great piece of cheesecake and a good cup of coffee, but I counted, I don't remember how many was inside, but the total number was 147 seats inside and out.
Mhm. Let's talk a little more about, there's some kind of tree removal that's happened between your property and the pastry shop, and
Yeah.
how's that impacted your property and
So
quality of life?
There used to be a good wooded area with trees on both our property. He took down the ones on his property a few years ago and started putting up picnic tables and grass. It was bushes and trees. It wasn't the greatest screening, but it still worked fairly well. Now it doesn't work at all. And I can sit in my kitchen and listen to the conversations people are having there. They're sitting out in the bakery.
And has this new inclusion of the outdoor seating, the outdoor music, the outdoor concert type atmosphere? Has this adversely affected your quality of life and in your
Yeah.
opinion, changed the character of the neighborhood?
It most certainly has. It's not just people making noise, it's dogs barking. We even had a few dog fights last year. I don't even know if they're aware of that. But the music is amplified. I know that Francis testified it's not, maybe he doesn't know, but there's an amplifier because I remember almost walking over and complaining because they kept turning it up. And I'm behind the amplifier, which makes it even worse. It's just noise, it's not music. The parking is out of control. Someone is going to get hurt. It's not the historic Bertrandville quiet little town that we moved into anymore.
And over the last several years or last few years, have you submitted your concerns both verbally and in writing to the township?
I did. I started in October of last year and this is where we're at today.
Are you aware of any enforcement action that's taken place?
None. To my dismay, you know, the township sent them a letter saying they had some violations, and instead of resolving the violations, they just asked for this application for conditional use to keep doing what they're doing.
And have you reviewed the 2016 conditional use decision that was given on this property? Have you reviewed that?
Yeah, the township gave it to me, and it was, again, really concerning because if you read it, all the things they say they're gonna do are great. That's why we were so excited about it. They were gonna limit it to 14. They put right in there, no, there will be no outdoor seating. They promised to pave the parking lot. They didn't do that. They took down the screening that was up. So it's just very concerning that they didn't even meet the conditions of the first conditional use, and they're allowed to ask for more.
So that's why it's concerning that they didn't comply with the initial conditional use decision. And it's concerning to you that they might be granted even more approvals.
Yes, yes.
And also, you know, as an adjacent property owner, I know that it's been frustrating for you that you've had to hire your own attorney to fight for the owners to comply with zoning ordinance requirements and to protect the historic character and property values of homes in Bertrandville. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm quite upset actually, because I'm really surprised. I've been a very good neighbor. Like I said, I've never complained. Let them do what they want, make sure they have a successful business, supported them in any way I could. And when asked to do something about it, they want to get approval to do more. And it really is concerning. It pains me to spend thousands of dollars to get the township to keep the neighborhood and community the same as it has been. It's too bad we can't all be good neighbors and get along.
And as an adjacent property owner, obviously you're familiar with the parking areas on the subject property and the roadways. Do you have serious concerns with the traffic safety issues in the vicinity?
Yeah.
And the lack of sufficient parking?
So it's a miracle no one's gotten hurt, that no one's got hit by a car, because kids are running in the street, dogs, horses, bicyclists, cars, trucks. Everybody is in that street on Hollow Road. They said it is like living in Center City.
That's all the questions I have for my client.
Samara, do you have any questions?
Colorado, I haven't had an opportunity to review any of these. And I know that there are people who have wanted to testify, and rather than bring people back and rather than bring the township people back, I'd like to reserve my cross-examination to our next hearing. And to allow people who wanted to testify to be able to do that tonight rather than to bring them back.
Do you have any objection to that?
Well,
Reserve his cross-examination of your.
that's fine if he wants to do that, but I'd like to be given the opportunity to proceed with my case and have the zoning officer and the township engineer.
That's quite all right. I think that's what you suggested.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, since Mr. Sliddick then is going to be coming back, we'll reserve any other questions for everyone else until that time.
Yeah.
All right.
The only thing I will note that I do believe Mr. Slack has some, I think it's elderly parents or family members that he has to go take care of.
We'll work that out.
Okay.
We'll work
The
that.
scheduling might be a little bit
We'll
tricky.
work that out.
Okay.
All right, do you have other witnesses that you want to call the zoning officer and the engineer, or?
The zoning officer, please.
Okay.
You can answer.
I'll have her sit here, or where does she want to sit?
She's coming.
That's good. Question.
Right, you're close enough? This is okay. It's a little tall. I'm gonna
You
have.
want to sit?
I'm gonna make it tall. Why don't you
Why
come
don't you
sit?
sit here?
Exhibits I can give. I have exhibits I need to give you too.
Here, you give her-
That's easier for you too, right?
Maybe turn the mic.
I do. Tracy Franny, Tracey, Franey, appointed zoning officer for the township.
I'm gonna have you share this exhibit package. It's already been read into the record.
Okay.
Franny, is that how you say it?
Yes.
Ms. Franny, you're familiar with my client Steve Slavic and the property, is that correct?
I am.
So I'm going to direct your attention to the first 4 exhibits
Okay,
that are here.
sure.
And if you can just take a moment and look at the emails that are in there, it's S2 and S3 and also S4, and just confirm those emails and that letter were written and sent by you.
Okay,
You can take your time and look through them.
sure. S2 was sent by me. S3 was also sent by me. S4 was sent by me.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then can you also confirm that S1 it's the conditional use opinion order dated June 6th, issued by the board of supervisors, and that you're familiar with that decision?
I am familiar with it. Yes, I will confirm.
Thank you. Based upon your emails and communications with Mr. Sladek, my client, is it fair to say that you were aware that the pastry shop had expanded its seating indoors and outdoors beyond the original approval?
Yes, when he reached out to me in October of 2023, that's when I began looking into it. And at that time, I started receiving, I don't know if it's fair to say receiving, but I started seeing advertisements for a party room and things like that. And I just started receiving more information. So that's when my knowledge of any possible, I don't want to call it wrongdoing, but ordinance, wrongdoing because of lack of a better word, I'm up here in front of everybody, it's kind of messing with me. I'll go with wrongdoing, even though I don't think it's quite accurate, but wrongdoing against the ordinance.
And you were also aware that Mr. Sladek had expressed some concerns with traffic and noise in that vicinity?
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
So directing your attention to your October 17th email, if you don't mind, take a look at that.
sure.
In that email, there is some mention of there was some discussion about there possibly being some no parking signage established in that area. Did any action was ever taken on that?
So I reached out to the chief of police, and I believe at the time the township manager, possibly, again, this is going back several months. And I asked, how is it possible to put no parking sign out there? And so I began to look into the procedure that would take, and I found out the chief of police, my understanding from him was that the property owner would have to reach out to PennDOT to do that. So at that point, I left that aside because I cannot speak for PennDOT, and nor is it my jurisdiction.
With respect to your email from February 23rd, which is S4, I'm sorry, S3. In that you seem to allude to the fact that there might be a notice of violation issued for the property. Was there ever a notice of violation ever issued?
So I wrote the letter, I believe it's May, sorry, I have it here. So I wrote them a letter at the end of March 27th, 2024, and I wrote a letter. They were not identical, but they all began with much of the same information, to all tenants of both 1403 Hollow Road and 1406 Hollow Road. Because I knew the conditional use from 2016 said that the Bertrandville Cafe and the Butterscotch Pastry Shop had to share parking. But I also knew in a practical standpoint that the post office was also involved in that parking and had to use it in some way. So I wrote all the tenants a letter, basically asking them to be good neighbors. I didn't say good neighbors. I tried to make it a little bit more official than that, but asking them to hang signs where no parking was not appropriate, and to start speaking to their customers and clients about making sure that they were parking in appropriate places.
And that's not unusual for a zoning officer. You first send the friendly letter out.
It
You
generally
actually
gets more
comply.
done, and it ultimately resulted in the owners of the pastry shop and also the cafe applying for conditional use before I had to go to enforcement. If I had gone to enforcement, the application process would have been the same. Would have been the same, yes.
So there was never a notice of violence.
No, I did not need to go that part because they reached out to me almost immediately after receiving the letter and saying, how do we start
Did
to make
anyone,
this right?
did anyone from the township, encourage you not to issue the notice of violation, ask you to wait?
No,
Directing your attention to the February 23rd email again. Have you had the opportunity, and in this email, you alluded to the fact that you'd like to get in there and actually count how many seats are inside and outside, and have you done that? Have you gone to the property, counted inside seats and outside seats?
so initially I did not because the application included a bunch of the seat layout. Last Wednesday, I did go out to count seats inside and out.
Do you have a report on that, or?
I emailed that right to Mr. Honorado last week. I have it in all of my hand scratch here. Hold on one second. Indoors, I counted 19 in the cafe space. In the first room you go into, it's all like little swivel iron seats or something like that. That area was empty of people.
But people can sit in there.
People
correct?
can sit in there. I'm just saying, so the other side of the room was full.
Mhm.
And so, so I believe it's 10 on the one side and 9 on the other. And then I asked, to go into the party room and count those, and I counted 42 seats in the party room. I call it the party room. I don't know what it's actually called, the back room.
So how many, as a zoning officer for the township, how many seats did you count in total in the interior of the Butterscotch Cafe?
61.
And then did you have an opportunity to go outside and count how many seats outside?
Yes.
What is that number?
So so the seating outside is mostly picnic tables. So I assumed 4 people per table, but I don't know how many people are putting, anybody sitting out there. So I counted 14 full-size picnic tables. 14. The owner at the time said that 2 of those tables are not being used and are planned to be thrown out. I also counted 2 tables with 4 seats each surrounding them for individual chairs. I counted 3 tables with 2 individual chairs at each of them. I'm sorry, one of those was a table with 2 seats, and then another were 2 smaller picnic tables that only seat 2 people. Pardon me. I counted 4, I called them park benches in my email. So there's no tables, just 4 park benches. And again, the owner said that one of those is going to be thrown away, that one of them is broken and not being used.
Okay, so visually, how many seats did you count outdoors in total?
Sorry, give me a minute to do some math here because I didn't do all the multiplication there. Do you wish me to give you the number of seats of all seating or just the seating that is being used, that is not broken?
No, the seating that you counted.
Okay,
Broken or not broken.
gotcha. No, it's fine.
So obviously those can be replaced.
Sure. Math is not my forte. Give me one moment. Nor is neatness. By my count, I believe that's 84 seats outside.
Thank you.
Sure.
So in your opinion, as zoning officer, has the pastry shop been operating in violation of the conditional use order dated June 6, 2016?
Yes.
And can
Sorry.
you describe how it was in violation?
The original conditional use of 2016, the applicant said that there would be no outdoor seating. They said that there would only be 14 seats indoors. And there was no mention of live music at the time, but that's an extra use, even as an accessory use. So it was not listed as an allowable use in the original conditional use in 2016.
And what were the, do you recall from the original conditional use order, if there was any description about whether or not parking would be paved?
My recollection is that one accessible space would be paved and the driveway portion leading to it, I believe.
I'm gonna direct you to take a look at that.
Sure.
That's the S1.
Mhm.
And if you can look back,
What number is it?
S1, the original conditional use decision. And can you read, for the record, number 2 on the decision?
The applicant must comply with all other conditions of the township zoning ordinance, including but not limited to all conditions pertaining to the pavement of the associated parking lot or obtain appropriate zoning relief from the township zoning hearing board.
Are you aware of them receiving any kind of relief from the zoning hearing board with respect to paving the parking?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, now I'm gonna move on to a couple different exhibits. I'm gonna have you take a look at S5, S6, and S11.
Okay.
So S5 is that a copy of the conditional use application that was submitted?
It appears to be yes.
And then, if you can also look at S11, which is, can you tell me what that is, S11?
It is a blank conditional use application.
So when you look at the page 2 of the what's required to be submitted,
Sure.
There's certain things that are required to be submitted with the conditional use application. And I guess I would like to know if do you think there's some things missing in this application? Actually, I'll just walk you through it.
Sure.
Are there any plans showing existing and proposed buildings and all proposed accessory facilities, including roads, access drives, parking areas, and natural features within 500 feet of the subject property? Has that been submitted?
No.
The application was accompanied by such information in narrative form to demonstrate compliance with all applicable standards to be met, including feasibility of water supply, sanitary sewage disposal, and storm drainage control. Has any of that been provided?
No, not with this application.
And the plans that have been submitted with the application, how would you describe those plans?
Let me.
S5.
So there's a sketch showing an approximation of the parking lot as well as seating areas adjacent to the pastry shop and the small bridge connecting the parking lot to the pastry shop.
And these are just handwritten?
Yes, they are.
Diagrams.
Yes.
Have you received any kind of parking plan that was done by an engineer showing actually how all this parking would be situated on the property?
No.
So the requirements that you just listed, that we just discussed, that are part of S11, which is the township conditional use application.
Would you agree that these are the same requirements that are set forth in section 390-219 of the zoning ordinance?
Objection, leading.
I'm on cross. I'll show
She's on cross, you can leave. I'll allow it.
And I'll give you an excerpt. Thank you. And can you repeat your question, please? Sure. The Form Township Conditional Use application, it lists exactly what the applicant has to provide. And I'm asking you, is that the same as what is required to be provided by your zoning ordinance? You can compare them. Or do they appear to be the same? They do appear to be the same. Thank you. So would you agree that there's certain requirements that were required to be submitted as part of the application that had not been submitted by the applicant? Yes, that's how it appears to be. Thank you. Now I'd like to refer to your memo dated May 14th, it's marked as S6, short. And it's a very well done, thorough memo, I will say. So some of my questions for you though are, do you know how many parking spaces are required to be provided per employee at this property? I do not recall in our ordinance where it says any. I do not recall adding that specifically to here. I do not think. Generally speaking, parking is needed to be one space per employee. And do you have any idea how many employees, did the applicant provide you with any information about how many employees are on site for each shift? No. Would it surprise you to know that, well, it's in section 390-135.f requires one space per employee during the largest shift? It would not surprise me. Are there any handicap spaces required for this use? Yes. And do you know how many are required? No. And are handicap parking spaces typically required to be larger than regular parking spaces? Not necessarily. It's been a long time, since I've had to design handicap parking spaces myself, but my recollection is that handicap spaces could be slightly narrower because they did require a striped portion next to them to allow for more accessibility into the car. Understood. So the parking space might be the same size, but the area around it might be larger. Yes. Would this parking lot be required to be paved and parking spaces actually painted? For handicap specifically, or just in general? In general. Do you think there's a requirement? I believe in the township, there is a requirement for commercial properties to have paved parking. So we have your new calculations as far as the indoor, the seating. We have 61 seats indoors and we've got 84 seats outside. Okay. And based upon your memo, you'd already been able to calculate how many parking spaces would be required. Yes. Could you do that again for us based upon, because the numbers you have now are a little bit different than in your chart. Walk through this, you mean, or? Just tell me how many parking spaces would be required on site based upon the seating in the restaurant. So number of parking spaces on site required would be one per each employee of the heaviest shift based on what you just told me and common recollection. Right. And one space per every 2 seats. You able to do that math? All right, for this one. Sorry, I didn't know I was doing that math. What did you said 84? There's 84 seats outside and 61 seats inside. That's 145 seats, which would be 73 parking spaces for just seating alone.
So 73 parking spaces on site, and that doesn't even include
It does not even include
Employees.
employees, correct?
the 73 parking spaces with the handicap parking spaces being incorporated in that?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, did you have the opportunity also, I think in your memo, you had given an estimate about how many parking spaces would actually be able to fit? Was your estimate of might be able to actually fit on that lot that's on the property?
I very rudimentally, it's even the correct word, counted spaces of the parking lot on the same lot as Butterscotch Pastry Shop and the lot alongside Bertrandville Cafe. And my total that I estimated, and that was literally just by taking overall dimension of lots, the whole gravel or paved areas as they were, a total of 32 spaces. I did not take into account any spaces along the barn or anything like that.
But obviously you would feel more comfortable if an actual engineer decided to design a parking lot and was able to count the spaces, correct?
Yes, and yes.
So let's move on from parking for a bit. Do you know if any building permits were applied for or received for the additional appliances installed in the building for baking?
Not to my knowledge. And as of the time of this memo, there had been none.
And who handles enforcing that requirement? Building permits get issued, that get applied for and issued.
The building code, we have a building code official appointed in the township, and he generally handles those. If he is unavailable, then I have been known to.
And do you know if any sewage planning has been done for this increased seating, which we're aware is already taking place in the building?
I do not know of any planning specifically, but I had reached out to the county health department regarding sanitary sewer.
And now I need to ask you some questions related to your interpretation of the zoning ordinance.
Sure.
I'm gonna walk you through a series of questions, then we'll kind of get into your ordinance specifically.
Okay.
So would you agree the very first place one looks to see if a use is allowed in a certain zoning district, you would look to the section of the zoning ordinance that sets forth those uses?
Correct.
So if a use is allowed by conditional use, you look in that zoning district section to see if it's allowed by conditional use in that zoning district.
Yes.
So following that process, if a use is not permitted by right, by conditional use, by special exception, then the applicant would need to seek a use variance from the zoning hearing board. Is that correct? Generally speaking.
Generally speaking, variances are done for dimensional changes, allowances, hardships that way. If somebody came to me and said, I'd like to use a property a certain way that is not listed in any type of way in your zoning ordinance, then I would direct them to do a conditional use application.
So you're not aware of use variances that can be granted?
No.
And that's fine. They can be granted. The burden for use variance is much higher than dimensional variance, but they certainly can be granted.
Sure.
So I'm going to hand up to you, section 390-48B1. And that's the section, from Bertrandville.
Say 390-48
Yeah,
B1.
48B1. This is an excerpt from the Bertrandville Village District of the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
And you can page through if you want.
Okay.
And so can you read for us what section 48B1 states with respect to a conditional use that's allowed, which I believe this is the conditional use that's being requested.
B1 is professional office, B2 is
Oh,
tea
B2.
room,
Yeah, B2.
restaurant and tea room,
Me too.
yes, and cafe.
Can you read that section?
Restaurant, tea room, and cafes, provided that food be served at tables by the establishment and that it not be designed for drive-in or takeout business, and provided that the total ground floor area is 2,000 square feet or less.
So is it your understanding that the conditional use that was sought in 2016, thank you, that was what they sought their conditional use for?
Yes,
And then can you go ahead and read to the record the definition of restaurant? And this is from your definition section in your zone ordinance.
a building used for the purpose of furnishing or serving food and beverages for the consumption to the public and which contains inside seating facilities.
So for the conditional uses that are allowed in the BV district, do you see outdoor music, outdoor concert, outdoor dining, or patio use anywhere listed as being permitted by conditional use in the BV district?
No, I do not.
And the type of restaurant that is allowed by conditional use in the BV district, does that have a limitation as far as square footage?
2,000 square feet or less. Total ground floor area.
And the restaurant definition, does that state that is it defined as containing inside seating facilities?
It does, yes.
So the original conditional use approval was granted, that was in fact granted as specifically defined in section 39048B2, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Can we all just take a few minute break before you begin? I think, yeah, I think what we want to.
Get the work done if they're
Yeah, that's
witnesses.
something.
Yeah, thank you. Please see the list of the, okay. So I can.
There you are.
We're gonna put more and more next.
Okay.
Then that's it. Tracy.
Yeah.
I wish I knew who these people are.
Have a card, raise your hands. I just told Dave and I, rather than take a picture. If you have one.
Match up. and some of them.
Everybody's gonna poke each other, right?
Hello, Paris.
I know, we already had public.
No, for the.
Yeah, you can't do it until
I think
testify.
I understand, but like.
It depends on if,
Wondering if.
it depends on, well, we're thinking that we would like to get Norman and somebody, any witnesses that have any testimony to so see the tire is continue or not. We can't tell you. I'm sorry, we can't say how long.
I just was
And
wondering.
at some point, we will continue it, but we haven't given up.
So it's like that should probably tell them, but it's right after.
Well, right after this break, we're going to interview Warren, our engineer. And then any other witnesses that they have to go first. We cannot choose them. But there is a good chance that we'll continue to see a good chance, but we're gonna try to get everyone to see this. We're gonna try. Sorry. Welcome. Dave and Donna, Dave's here. It's actually Dave. It's actually Dave loves Donna. It's actually Dave loves Donna. No.
Okay, David.
And that's why I was saying.
They're actually called Dave Loves Dog. Well, Dave was here. I think he might have slipped out, afraid you might ask him a question. Oh, we should have everything. Maybe we should take a little of that. Well, we're trying to get.
Then you asked her about all the stuff.
But she gets too much longer than she's thinking about. So she's asking me, she wants to get these people with their children first. I'm sorry. How to play in order,
Yeah.
how this goes, and I can't say that we're gonna get to them. Yeah, she's just crazy. Well, he's next. I was just questioning, do you have other witnesses or just Norm? Is that your last witness? Just Norm. Okay.
I don't know if it's still fairness. It's for you to get back.
Why do you think he's leaving?
And the parents get kids.
Oh.
She sent you.
Well, he's still here, right?
No, she has,
What you gonna keep on?
I asked her to do.
She testifying about an email that she sent.
You, right, in my request, I asked her if he was. She testified. Okay. It's in that email. I don't have it. Sure.
Yeah, here's Norm. He will be here to testify. Okay, are we good to get back?
Well, we can probably do.
Oh, yeah, we need.
If it was that.
Norm's fast, we can take a couple and then finish the call.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think we want to go much past 10.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
I was thinking we wanted to be done.
Okay, yeah, we're thinking so. It's time
With
here.
2 hours, it's much 45.
Yeah.
But. You know, there's these people.
Okay, we're gonna try to resume. Let's,
Better run.
Morning to Tommy to take your station. Thank you all for that. Great. Tracy, why don't you take it? George, you can ask her questions.
Yeah, down
by.
Oh, redirect that.
Yeah. You finished?
Well, yeah, I'm finishing. I'm finished.
Oh, you finished? Yeah, but we need to.
You-
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Should I sit back here? 'Cause,
Yeah, yeah. All right, we're ready to
All right,
resume.
ready?
Mr. Martin, go ahead. You have questions of this witness?
Thank you. Ms. Ramey, you indicated that you reached out to the chief of police. And you were told that the property owner would need to reach out to PennDOT. You know if the property owner reached out to PennDOT?
I do not recall. Mr. Sladik and I have had many, many conversations since last October. I'm afraid I don't recall.
Now, that would be in reference to putting an official no parking sign up there, correct?
That was what my understanding was that he was looking for initially, yes.
But there's nothing that would prevent Mr. Sladik from putting his own sign on his own property that simply said no parking here, correct?
Correct, as long as it's out of the PennDOT right of way.
So he could do that, but he hasn't done that, has he?
He could, and he did get signs from the chief of police that he borrowed, that the police lent him to do that, to see if that helped the matter on the weekends when there was music playing.
Are there any signs there now?
I don't believe so, because the chief did ask for those signs back because he was gonna need them for other times as well.
But nothing would prevent Mr. Slater from putting signs out that said, don't park here.
Correct, he could do that.
And presumably, if he put signs out that said, don't park here, people wouldn't park there.
That would be my hope.
Did you see the pictures that Mr. Slavic took?
He did send me a couple photos several months ago. I did not look at them before this evening.
And most of those photos show cars that are parked not on Mr. Sladek's property, but on Bertrandville property.
I don't know. I didn't see those photos tonight at all.
Now, you said that they're in violation of the parking. And that
We got cows in the barn.
Either that or haunted. I don't know what that is.
Someone from that.
Ghosts.
Goes to God.
now, the property owner, when you sent that letter, which was
Borrow this. It's okay.
March 27th. And you notified Francis that you thought he was in violation. He immediately responded by filing for a conditional use.
Yes.
correct? And that's the conditional use hearing that we're here
Yes.
for today.
Yes,
And that is to allow outdoor seating and also to allow the indoor seating in the back room, correct?
yes,
So that he has followed up and done what you told him to do.
yes,
And that's why we're here.
yes,
And then if the supervisors agree that he should be allowed to do that, he would be in compliance with the ordinance.
yes.
Now, you were asked about the blank form for a conditional use application. And it says it should show existing and proposed buildings and all proposed accessory facilities, including roads within 500 feet of the subject property and all tax parcels. He's only asking for permission to have outdoor seating and indoor seating at the Butterscotch Cafe, correct?
Correct.
And he submitted with his application the diagrams of the seating that he's asking for.
That does cover his seating permission, but
so-
it does not cover the parking.
So he submitted with his application what you really needed and what the supervisors really need in order to decide this case, correct?
I can't presume to tell anybody what the supervisors need to decide this case.
So all features, including roads and access drives within 500 feet of the subject property, that's really irrelevant to what we're talking about today, is it not?
You'd have to ask the board.
The calculation that you did for the parking, did that include the benches? For the seating, the outdoor seating? Did you include
Of the other
benches
day,
as
yes,
seating?
yes,
So you're considering that, if there's a bench there, that's two more people that they need to provide parking for?
yes.
So if they remove the benches, they would no
Those would
longer be in.
Yes, correct.
And the email that you sent to Attorney Onorado didn't contain the calculations.
It did
And
not.
that's all just your hand scratch
Yes,
on that.
yes. Ms. Venzi and I calculated that while I was giving testimony under Ms. Venzi's.
So you just calculated that right now?
Yes,
It wasn't in the email to Mr. Onorado?
no, I just counted the number of tables and whether or not 2 people or 4 people could sit there.
Could I see that email?
So outdoors. You say you counted 14 full-sized picnic tables.
Yes, I believe so.
Us too.
Well, it's gonna be difficult for her to, because you have the email, so how's she going to testify?
I'll come over with her. You indicate. So you've got 8 people on park benches.
I believe so, yes.
And what I would like to do is to have a view, because we were just there today and there are only 11 full-sized picnic tables that are there. Do we have a view of the property?
No, I don't think we need a view of the property. I think we just need to have photographs taken.
Okay. We can do that.
Show what's
We can
there.
do that.
Thank you.
So at this point in time, the applicant has applied for relief, which if granted by the supervisors would make him in compliance with the ordinance, correct?
Yes, because the ordinance requires a conditional use to expand a conditional use business.
I have no further questions.
Okay, do you have any redirect?
I do.
Good.
The picture shows without a
So-
park, Carl.
So I'm
Some,
gonna have you look at,
and you'll be able to sell jewelry. And when people come to visit these people, that's why it's so
it's
crowded.
section 390 219. And it's 2. And so can you read that into the record, please?
Conditional use approval shall be required for any new uses, new construction, and the addition, enlargement, or change in use, or the increase in the level of activity or area of a previously approved conditional use.
And now I need to take a look at S11, which is the form conditional use application.
Okay.
And if you can look at page 2, and it's the section below the yellow highlight. Can you read that first paragraph?
Conditional use approval shall be required for any new uses, new construction.
Can you read the what's after uses? That symbol is semicolon?
Semicolon, excuse me.
Yep.
New construction, semicolon, and the addition, enlargement, or change in use, or the increase in the level of activity or area of a previously approved conditional use.
So. My understanding is that you're not aware that, until tonight, you weren't aware that an applicant, if they want to do a use that's not allowed by conditional use in that zoning district, they actually have to seek a use variance from the zoning hearing board.
I am not, I don't believe that I've ever heard the term use variance specifically. I've never heard the term use variance in any municipality that I've worked.
Those are hard to get.
They're hard to get, but they're asked for and they're allowed by law and they're required by law.
Okay.
So when you read that section, conditional use approval should be required for any new uses. could you understand possibly that it's three separate things? It's new uses, new construction. And then the last thing is the addition, enlargement, or change in use or an increase in level of activity or area of a previously approved conditional use.
Yes,
Those are three separate type uses.
yes, of
Okay.
course.
So for a new use, you would still have to go back to the zoning district to see if it's even allowed as a conditional use in that zoning district. Would that make
Okay.
sense to you?
Sure.
Okay.
That being said, now, you had me read that there are semicolons on the
Yeah.
application. There are not semicolons in the ordinance.
Right. I think that the application just is trying to clarify the intent of what the language in the ordinance means, but
Okay.
I'm sure that you're.
No, no, no.
I'll let you argue all that at the end.
I apparently do not know the legal significance of a semicolon, and that's why I'm putting a question mark at the end of that.
The next question I have for you is, at one point, did the township actually, provide my client with some no parking signs?
The chief of police said that Mr. Slater could borrow them on a temporary basis.
And then he was required to give them back to the township?
Yes, correct.
That's all the questions.
Thank you.
Just
Any,
brief
go ahead.
Ms. Rainey,
Yes,
conditional use for the Butterscotch Cafe was granted in 2016, correct?
correct.
And what we're seeking now is an expansion of that use, a change in use, an expansion.
Yes,
Correct. Nothing further.
that is how I directed it, yes.
Thank you. Anyone who was listed as a party. Wish to ask this witness of any question? You have questions to ask?
Yes.
Okay, come on up. Please limit it to questions of.
Yes,
Ms.
that's
Rainey.
fine. You need my name? Or- George Stelchinos, Dulchinos. Yes, Tracy, I have it's B6 exhibit. That's what it says conditional use application you wrote to the supervisor.
Okay.
And I'm sure you know, May 14th. I guess my question is where it says there's room for 12 cars for parking along 1403 Hollow Road on the side of the Bertramville Cafe building. This section here,
Page 3, okay.
section A, and at the bottom of the page.
Are you referring to what was Marcus?
I think it's B6. I think I wrote that down. B is in Baker.
It's my estimate.
But it's actually.
Oh, it's yours? Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I thought it was something different.
So I guess my question was, it says 12 cars. Do you know offhand? Did you measure that or did you take it from the aerial or?
I took them, those very primitive dimensions off of Chisco View's aerial.
Okay.
photography, And I just,
I'm sorry, you're talking.
no, that's okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
He can hear me, I'll yell for him and I'll speak to you.
Thank you.
So I took the dimensions off of Chisco View's aerial photography.
Do you have the dimensions offhand? there?
I do not, I literally took them on the computer, quick and dirty, to give an estimate for this memo.
Do you know what the width you used for
I,
calculate 12 cars?
if I pretended to remember something that I did.
Okay,
I'd be lying.
well, the reason for my question is that do you know if you would have restricted the parking distance to strictly in front of the property line?
No, I don't necessarily think that I checked that. I will tell you that I would have, it's my practice if I'm doing something like this, even an estimation, that I would have checked the zoning ordinance for our required dimensions of parking spaces. So if it says there would be 12 cars there, room for 12 cars, that means that that's 12 cars at the minimum dimension of our parking space standard in the township, which I believe is 9 by 18.
So at 9 feet.
Times
Okay,
12.
the reason I'm asking is that I think along that road before you get to the creek,
Okay.
I own property
Sure.
about probably 20, 30 feet before the creek.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that we're not making a decision based on parking spaces allocated in front of my property.
I understand what you're saying. No, I was mentioning,
You could present evidence to that. Feel like you want to put it on the record, not now, but some,
Is something like a photograph, is that?
yeah, not now.
You want me, okay, how would I present that?
When we get around to the point where they're finished putting on their evidence, I'll ask if anyone else wants to put on evidence, and that's when you would do it. It's not gonna be tonight, though.
Oh, it's not, okay, so I can prepare
Yeah,
something
yeah,
better.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's the
Or
reason.
they're required to show a parking plan and show his property boundaries and where he's going to establish
I
parking.
don't know if the applicant present their case as they want. to.
Okay, well, that's the basis of my question and what I want
You'll
to.
have an opportunity to do that if you want.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, does anyone else have any questions of this witness? Okay, so we're finished with this witness and you want to bring on,
I have a quick question.
Go ahead. Oh, this
It's
one?
okay,
Go ahead.
literally. Yeah, so you were saying the inside essentially is 61 spots or seats. And the outside 84. We're just assuming that these can all be filled at the same time? I'm just thinking about the weather permitting. Is that playing into this at all? And is that something that's been noticed at all, that
The
know
61
that everyone's
seats,
outside or everyone's inside?
the 61 seats are the interior seats.
Mm-hmm.
The other seats, the 84 would be exterior. There are umbrellas.
Yeah.
I mean,
But are you required to assume that they can all be seated at the same time?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so.
all right, any other questions? We're good? All right, do you want to bring up Mr. Ulrich, the township engineer?
Yes, please.
That'll be our last witness tonight, okay? Hold on, Lou.
And he's still cheerful.
Just glad I'm awake.
We're serving coffee.
Pronounce your last name correctly.
Spelled with an H, pronounced with a K. Oh.
And your name is,
Oh, I'm sorry, Ulrich, ULRICH. You're welcome.
So it's Ulrich, is that how I say it?
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ulrich, I'm going to direct your attention to some of the exhibits that are in the packet that I provided this evening. The first one is marked as S7. And can you just confirm that's a letter that you issued?
Yes, this is a letter issued by myself, prepared by LTL.
Thank you. And marked as S8 is also a review letter from the Chester County Planning Commission dated June 10th, 2024. Have you seen that letter?
I've seen it, I have not reviewed it.
So starting with your letter, you've got a couple areas of concern in your letter. And so I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions with respect to those issues. Are you aware of any sewer planning being done for this property?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And is it your understanding that if someone's going to have 61 seats inside and 84 seats outside, that there would be some kind of required sewer planning over and above the original 14 seats that were planned?
That would certainly seem reasonable, and that's why we had brought the comment up to be reviewed by the.
And what's that sewer planning process? What's that look like?
It would get sent to Chester County Health Department for them to look at it. It's generally based on the number of people and EDUs. I'm not that familiar with it to be able to speak to it.
Okay, but that would eventually come back to the township for some kind of review, correct?
Yes, yes.
And they would have to show they actually went through the sewer planning process. Is that correct?
That would be something that during our review, we would look for confirmation that the appropriate sewer planning was done. Yes, correct.
In your opinion, as a township engineer, should there already have been sewer planning done for this restaurant? Based upon the increased seating?
No, that's part of this process. So I wouldn't say already, no. I would say it would be part of
But if it's-
something to consider.
But if the seats are already in use, shouldn't it have already been done?
That was, I can't really comment to that. That was prior to me being involved with the township.
Okay. In your letter, you talk a little bit about parking, and I think you make a recommendation about the parking being required to be paved and striped. Is that accurate?
We talked about, did we talk about the? Yeah, I don't know if it was, I don't know if we brought up that it was to be paid. You say
It's
paid?
on page 3, it's D.
Yeah, I don't know that it would be, have to be paved, but they would have to provide adequate parking as consistent with the ordinance for sure, yes.
Section F, did you write that striping should be provided for the parking areas? Is that right
That-
there?
That was a suggestion, yes. That would be a way to determine, along with an engineered plan, that there is enough parking there, yes.
Okay. And in section D, do you also state that no street side parking shall be allowed for this use? So as to not inhibit traffic flow. Is that something you wrote in this letter?
That was a suggestion that was made, yes.
How would you, if no side street parking is going to be permitted, or if your recommendation is that it shouldn't be allowed, how would you recommend that that be accomplished? How would that be prohibited?
Well, first of all, we recommend that the township consider that for traffic flow reasons to be parking inside a right of way. It's just generally creates an unsafe condition. Okay, but how it would be accomplished would be part of the process. We would recommend probably having some type of an engineered plan submitted that's actually to scale. The parking spaces are consistent with the township zoning ordinance requirements, aisle space widths, things like that, that it just be documented.
Okay. On page 2, 1A, in the last paragraph, you discussed that the applicant should discuss actual parking, and the applicant should consider providing striped parking spaces and the parking lot to be paved. Is that accurate? Is that your
yes.
recommendations that you're making?
Yeah, yes, we would recommend, I would say for this type of use, that would be a recommendation, yes.
And then, on C, did you have any comments about, the outdoor music and about how that will impact surrounding properties?
Well, it was a suggestion to the supervisors to consider noise related to outdoor music and if there would be any type of mitigation measures, depending on where the music would be performed, some type of a backdrop to protect neighboring properties.
And, on the very first page of your letter, you reference on number 4 that, actually it's number 4, it says, the applicant is listed parking as a change to their 2016 conditional use application. And then you note that no detail has been provided on the change in parking. Is that accurate?
Correct, yes.
No detail has been provided on the change to the parking. Right, thank you. With regard to the letter from the Chester County Planning Commission, they had some comments in that review letter. Do you know, would that be your office's job to look at their comments and consider those, or who handles the input from the Chester County Planning Commission at this township, if you know?
Yes, well, generally, the input from Chester County Planning Commission is part of the plan review process. And we suggest that the municipality consider comments be made by the County Planning Commission. So during an application that were to be a subdivision land development, whatever that might be, that's typically part of the process. And the township, more specifically, the Township Planning Commission would review those comments and take them into consideration upon making recommendations to the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. I think that's all.
Do you have any questions, Mr. Moore?
Yeah, Mr. Ulrich, with reference to paving of the parking lot, that would be impermeable surface, would it not?
Yes.
And that would increase runoff into the stream that's right there?
Depending on the way it's draining, yes, but I believe the answer to that would be safely yes.
No further questions.
Does,
Question
go ahead, on that topic.
on that topic. If, obviously, if they're required to pave their parking lot, they're going to have to manage any stormwater runoff that comes from that parking lot. They'll have to manage that in compliance with your ordinances. Is that correct?
Yes,
So it won't necessarily just be a runoff into a creek. They'll have to manage the stormwater.
that would be a requirement that, yes, that we would likely make. Yes. Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions of this witness? No. You want to have a question about that?
I almost always have a question. I'm trying to stifle it.
Well, that was great.
While you're thinking, any person who's a party in the audience wish to ask a question? Okay,
Of him or in general?
of Mr. Mr. Ulrich. Go ahead.
Yes. How do I make this a question? I'm gonna make it a declaratory question. West Vincent values its sustainability goals, and one of them is to reduce vehicle miles driven. And I bet you
reduce vehicle.
miles driven, and that any number of people in this room do not park at the Butterscotch or the cafe because we walk to the intersection and we go into our place of business. So I'm a little shocked that we're spending so much time counting parking spaces when we don't want all that traffic in the middle of town. So here we have a goal to reduce miles driven in our center of town. And then we're trying to force more parking spaces in, and gives me a cognitive disconnect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're finished with this witness. And we're finished with testimony tonight. We're gonna have to come back for cross of your client and any other witnesses you may have. And then anyone who's a party who wishes to present any testimony or evidence, you can do that at the next hearing. So I want to pick another hearing date tonight, so we don't have to re-advertise. But my suggestion is just to do this at your next monthly meeting.
We have.
Won't be as long. Okay.
Now,
We should-
can I ask, we would find out people want to testify at that, so we know what we're dealing with, before they all leave.
We can, let me ask the question.
Maybe no one will want to. Oh, you're there, I know where you went.
Okay. Let me ask, do you anticipate any other, besides your client, you have any other witnesses? We're just trying to get a sense of the length of time for the next hearing.
I don't as of right now. I just don't know if there's other, are you doing non-national witnesses or?
Well, apparently I'll need to bring in Mr. Todd and I'll probably recall.
Okay, Mr. Todd, I forgot about him, right? Is there anyone in the audience who anticipates testifying either for or against this application or putting on your own evidence? Other than our fellow, okay. So I don't think we have a lot from the audience. So my suggestion is at the next monthly meeting.
My client is away in September.
Okay,
He's our only parent since he's got to go and take care of him.
all right. Well, let's see.
Our next workshop would
Next-
be probably the 3rd, since Tuesday was, I think you're saying that won't work.
October 1st, we'll be back in town October 1st.
And when's your workshop in October? 7th? We do the workshop on October 7th. Okay. That work for the board? October 7th.
What's the other week is that?
That's a Monday, first Monday in October. So we're announcing tonight, because we're not gonna re-advertise this, that the hearing is being continued to October the 7th, 2024. in this room at 7 o'clock. That's our workshop. And we'll have this hearing also. So everybody hear that, okay? All right.
When you're having your workshop, how long is that gonna take?
No, that'll be,
So we're really just having to.
Probably this, unless something comes up between now and then, and they need to have.
You should go ahead. You've been.
Oh, budget.
Yeah, but I think what we'll do is, even if we have other, items for that night. we'll do the hearing first, yeah.
just mentioned the budget.
I do have a question real quick. At the end of this, is that when you were going to, let people who live in the area speak and give opinions and stuff? like
Yeah,
that?
that's at the next hearing.
The problem is those, like, I'm not gonna be here, I get my kid here really late, is there a chance that just like to make a statement tonight? Just in.
Well, we're going real late.
I know.
If he wants to make.
I'm not gonna open up to anybody else other than to you. Because if not, I know how that's gonna go.
You're the man. I just really appreciate it, and I'm sorry, I try not to waste your time, okay?
Your name and address.
Yes, Cornell Duber, 1267 Jane.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to get.
Cornell Duber. Duber, yes. Deuber. What's up, dude? What are you doing? 1267 Jane Lane. Yes, I live about 3/4 of a mile away. 1267 Jane Lane.
Katie Lane.
All right, go ahead.
All right, thank you. No, sorry, I was just taking a couple notes while I was here, and I'm here in support of Butterscotch. So, I mean, I live in the community. I go down here pretty much every week. When they were bringing up the concerns about the trash, litter and everything like that, everything I've ever seen there has been nothing but considerate people. If there's trash that's falling outside of some of the trash cans or something, people are always picking it up and putting it back in the trash can. So, when she was speaking about the people that were commuting from these different parking spaces and walking up to Butterscotch, she keeps mentioning about sidewalks and things of that nature. And why would we put sidewalks in a place where we're trying to preserve its natural beauty? The people, as far as it being a safety concern, where people are walking on our streets, we have the area with some of the safest drivers I've ever seen in my life. Everybody knows how many people are constantly out walking, jogging, running, riding horses, riding bicycles, and everybody knows that they drive well under the speed limit. I feel that safety is definitely not a concern or something that should be considered in that regard. He did make a comment about with the parking and how there's cars doing 3-point turns in the roadway and comparing it to a major city. I think that's a little bit of a ridiculous claim. If you've ever been to a major city, you would understand that that's a little much. Okay, well, then you should know the difference then. Yeah, I am focused on my comments. Okay, that's fine. I'm just giving my opinion. So, the other thing too, that maybe that we should consider if we're trying to hack down on their parking and we're trying to hack down on how many people can fit inside the business, that's going to create more of a traffic problem. Because the thing is that I feel like they're kind of being penalized for being so popular when they have such an amazing venue, they have such an amazing cuisine, everything. If you just cut down on all that, that's still not going to stop the people from coming to this restaurant. So I think it's actually going to create a bigger problem with traffic if you're saying, hey, you're going to have to wait now an extended period of time to even go in this place. Just again, I'm not going to get into everything that we're just going back and forth and being argumentative, but I just wanted to say that Butterscotch has nothing but a good impact on the community. I think that they hire a lot of younger employees, and I think that even though they don't understand it, they are basically mentors to those younger people that they're hiring and giving opportunities to. And I think that these guys are excellent role models. I think that they truly care about our community. They truly care about our town. They bring revenue to our town, which is important. And more importantly, they bring our community together. You know, this is a place where I can take its friends, where we're meeting up with family, we're sharing good times. This is something that brings magic to our area of being that little hidden gem. So it's something that it brings us all together. And I think that's something that's really important and should be considered in the weight of this decision. And I think at the bottom line is that Butterscotch, I mean, essentially it is our community and they are part of our family.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, We're gonna continue the hearing to October seventh,
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are adjourned. Nice to see so many neighbors.
Tim, you're taking care of. You're taking care of this and the.